Yep.
Let's see if they if we mysteriously drop out, this will be why. I thought it might have been a Twitch, but it looks like it's a YouTube issue.
It's working now.
Okay. Welcome to the broadcast part 2. I hope you enjoyed the first one. It was really short.
I think that was some of the best content that we ever did in that 1 second that the video was.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah,
definitely.
yeah. Pristine. The highest quality video we've ever done, for sure.
Well, not only that, we did have a release date, but unfortunately now we can't say it again because we could only say it once.
Yep.
All right. So let's start from the beginning, like professionals. Here we go. G'day, everyone with the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared. How you doing, mate?
I'm okay. As I was saying on Twitch in the black, it's been a week.
The voice in the void has been Lemming. How you doing, Lemming?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing good.
All right, now we got that. That was damn annoying. I don't know why it crashed like that. I still can't see the folks in YouTube, so I apologize. Oh, there you are. Now I can see you. All right. Working good. Sorry about all that. I don't know what happened. As you guys know, every time we have an issue, it's because there was an OBS update, and I have no idea why. But it started the stream, literally cancelled it straight away, and now it's decided not to shit the bed. Anyway, everything seems to be sorted.
That was the first time we've ever had that.
Yeah,
I don't think
not in the couple of what are we up to now? We must be coming into our 3rd year of doing this on stream. I'll have to go back and check.
Yeah, probably the 3rd year of our live streams.
Yep. Alrighty.
So yeah.
It's my phone making noises. It's on silent.
Cause
it hates
like
me
to annoy us. Yep. Absolutely.
Right. Bot is up. We're good.
Okay.
Everything is organized. It did give me opportunity to do all the back end stuff though, so we're all organized. Right. So just before we went live today, or when I woke up, I had a message from 2 or 3 people. Obviously, some stuff's happened while we were asleep, Algared. So I'm going to cut straight to this because also Lemming is here, and he is one of the people that sent me this to me.
Yep.
So I'm going to flick over to this, and it's going to not shit the bed. There we go. Our friend called it. Our friend, God, I'm going to say a Batgirl. She called this and told us. We've been saying the same thing since we heard it from her. No CitizenCon this year. Digital Direct, CitizenCon Direct. That sounds like a Blizzard name. I don't know if you've heard that before, but that confirms to me what we had heard about the world tour, and that there would be no world tour this year. What's your thoughts on that, mate? Why I blow my nose?
Oh, I think that's right. I think the original plan was, I still think everything says that the plan was launch Squadron at CitizenCon last year.
Yep.
Do the world tour promotion, do the world promotional tour. So go to all the countries and spruik it. And then as a result of that, not do CitizenCon.
Yep. And I think also what's happened here is obviously best laid plans have gone awry. Something had changed because literally, as you and I said, we were pretty much effectively told it was releasing, and then basically 2 weeks after we booked all our stuff, everything got changed and cancelled, and it was like, oh, what the hell is going on? So
I think the really key thing that indicated, there were things we'd been told, but then there were things that even for those looking indicated Squadron 42 was planned for last year, and that was things like the Gala and all of those types of things. The second the Gala got canned,
it was a big telltale.
We were saying it's not the release of Squadron. It was planned, but it's not the release of Squadron.
I was hopeful, even up to the very last minute, even though I was standing there and I know I was pretty sure it wasn't coming. I really wanted it to be the release because I didn't want to wait another 12 months.
So
that's right, Shinobi Trip. We're never late. We turn up exactly when we're supposed to. That's right.
Don't give him Gandalf memes. Anyway, Lemming, you want to say?
So I'm always glass half full kind of person. So at least to me, the CitizenCon playable version that they played looked wonderful, but live, it was clearly not ready to launch. It could have. Games have launched in worse states than that.
I actually think that's a part of it. I think they realized they probably weren't going to be ready by the time they needed to be. when they did some kind of check thing. And I also think something drastically changed. Like, think about it. It's been dropped back 2 years, and the only thing that we had alluded to for the 2 years was that it had something to do with this world tour. That was the only kind of thing we had. And it appears to be slotting into place now, but that's despite then. I don't think we'll ever know the true light of day. Maybe years from now they'll talk about it. But I don't think we'll ever get exactly why it was canned from the gala to much later.
I tend to think one of the things you said early on was the fact if it planned the world tour and it actually put things in, and you've actually started doing your bookings and stuff, and so you can't really undo that.
Yeah.
You tend to have to go, okay, we're gonna go with that, and we're gonna tack it on at the end, and so it's a lead up to the release rather than release then world tour. And so I can still see you using that to spruik the sales and everything else. But
there's a really, really good point that I've brought up before, and I agree with him. Can't install COD says we have to dodge GTA 6 as well. I think he might be onto something there. There are a lot of people trying to avoid around GTA 6, and I have said that myself. But thank you for reminding me. Can't install COD on Twitch. Lemming?
But isn't GTA 6 on PC coming out in 2026?
No, it's usually 2 years away. So if it comes out for PS5 and console, essentially, it'll be 2 years away. So it would almost leapfrog us. And I think maybe that's why they went 2 years. They're like, we'll give GTA a full berth, release in the middle, and then have it land on the other side when it comes to PC. I don't know how much we're going to see that, but I know a lot of people are absolutely terrified. But I'm going to be honest, I think it is why they think that they're kind of similar, because they're kind of like, build this big world that you play in type style games. I think they are fundamentally going to be different, because you've got one that is kind of based in the now and one that's very sci-fi, and they are very different literal universes, but they are very different. So yeah. Anything else for this, or I'm going to switch it off?
No, there's something I could say, but we can't.
Well,
one of those things we've kind of not allowed to talk about.
But I know exactly what you're thinking of. Sorry, Lemon, go ahead.
I can talk because I have no idea what they're talking about. So I actually think that this is a little bit of a good thing, because anybody that organizes events, especially large-scale events, the chances of this CitizenCon coming back to the United States was pretty high. And they don't have any staff here or in Canada or wherever they were going to do it. So it was going to be massively expensive for them to do it.
I think it's going to...
I don't know if it...
Do you think it will change at all, though? Like, if you realistically think USA now... Well, we knew about the LA thing at CitizenCon. We knew about LA closing down, and we weren't the only ones, right? But basically... when I look at that, I go, well, it would have only ever been Austin. Austin's the only people they've got left. You've got community. I'm pretty sure Tyler's in Austin, so he would have been there. So he would have, and a lot of the community team are there, so they'd be doing a lot of the organizing. I do know Tyler went over to the UK to organize stuff at one point, so he would have been doing that in Austin anyway. So I think they would have been okay. But I think it shows that the only place left you're ever going to get CitizenCon that is in the USA is going to now be Austin. I think clearly Montreal would be now the North American element.
Yeah,
right.
It would be interesting to know where Toast is located now, because, as you know, when we were talking to Toast, he's legal, and he says, "Well, American legal is American legal, so you basically stay where you are."
Yes, I am a very sleepy little boy, and you can blame Uncle Void Vincent Dude. Get me up to like 3 in the morning, trapped in a mine below a massive orbital laser. No, I was out with Void Dude doing the event since about 8 o'clock our time, Algared, to about 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I went to bed, and then I just couldn't get to sleep. It was a pain.
I did actually see you online last night for a brief second as I was shutting down the computer. Because I'd been to the optometrist, but he dilated the pupils, and they were like,
yeah.
So every bright light, every even dim lights were like, I'm burning.
Yeah.
felt like a vampire. It really did want to just be in the dark. And
yeah, I had the same thing when I went for mine. So yeah, you just got to wear sunglasses for a few hours.
It became quite it was quite hard. So
yeah, so I'm expecting with that digital CitizenCon, it'll essentially be just like the other digital CitizenCon, pretty much pre-recorded. But what I would have liked to have seen is them just like essentially talking to us from a camera inside Manchester. That would have been totally fine.
Oh yeah, look, yeah. I would hope. Here's my hope beam in terms of this, that because they've done it in the past, they've had the feedback on the previous one, but they actually do some live presentations rather than doing doing the pre-recorded.
Yeah, if I can give any advice back to CIG, upstairs in your cafeteria there at Manchester, where you've got that seating and stuff, have a few of the devs there and do your presentations out of there. Just a little room. You could have devs just behind you, and they could just walk down and talk on the mic and stuff as they wanted to or needed to. That's how I would do it personally. And you could have a little screen opposite that they can watch, and then also do the presentations and that you've got a little amphitheater there. You don't need many people. It'll work really well.
And you've got the advantage then, if you're doing live, literally like you do when you do Star Citizen Live, have the chat, being able to take questions from the chat and actually talk about them in the panel at the end of the panels if you wanted. So the world's your oyster. Like strike.
But yeah, I would make it more of a live one and it does say CitizenCon Direct, so I believe that means it's going to be live. That's how I'd be doing it. Whereas opposed to, I understand the last one was during COVID, so that makes a lot of sense to kind of do it pre-recorded because you can't get people there on the day.
Yep.
But now that's all abated. I'm hoping it will be a bit more of a live thing. Yeah.
On the bright side, we won't get a COVID outbreak at CIG.
Let's hope not. I think they had a pattern recognition moment when you and I did and went, what the hell?
Well, certainly, certainly we said, oh, did that happen all the time? Oh, yeah, it happened last time as well. And we went,
why didn't you think that had happened again and not tell everyone? But yeah. I don't know.
But yeah.
I don't know, maybe us Aussies are used to Sense and Sensibility, but yeah. So I did have a lot of fun doing the orbital assault with Void Dude and a lot of his friends last night. That was really good. We did it like 3 times. The first 2 times we were picking up sloppy seconds, and then the last time we got massively attacked by I don't know who people were saying that it was Agent Letty and the Mongrel Squad. But I had people, like I was in the actual cave mining, and they actually had people like they were dropping people in, and then randomly some people would come into the cave, and then they started shooting the other guy that was mining with me. I just came out and we got that guy, and then they sent in foot troops to guard us, and they still got in, and I still killed them. So they never ever got us out of there. Completely. And then but it was they had a whale of a time because there was one period where none of them had ships. They'd all been shot out of the sky and they were just on foot defending the hole from planes. It was mad. I had a great time, and I think the thing that I realized, because I even took John the first time, like the other night when I did it with Voidy, and John was like a mission specialist showing everyone how to use the geo. It was, and John doesn't PvP like at all, right? So it was just really cool to have these mixed generations and these mixes of skills. Void Dude still thinks a lot of combat people could still mine if they wanted to. And I was kind of saying, yeah, for now, but I think eventually there'll be this, everyone will be able to do it, right? Like it's going to be a bit more like chess, like where everyone can do it, but like if you're a master, you can kind of run loops around people. And John can already do that to me. There's just things that he knows, like he knows exactly what modules are best for that rock and stuff like that. And that is not that's not something you can't learn. It's just that you got to remember it all as well. Yep. And that'll be the difference between, it'll be the same thing with combat people that know exactly what guns and exactly which way to move the ship. It's the same thing. It's just it's going to be the same with engineering, knowing your ship back to front.
everything.
How have I said
It's
that
gonna be
about?
like that.
I've said that about the entire game. It's going to be too big. Like you and I will be hyper generalists, but we're going to have to bring certain people in because we just won't. Nobody's going to know it all. Like it's just going to be too big when it's done. And I just really, it was a real penny drop moment for me where there was a guy we were playing with. I can't remember his name right now, and maybe I shouldn't, but he literally said, "I don't know how to mine," and I went. Like it's going to take all types and I talked to John about it later and he said the same thing when this guy said I don't know how to mine, so he's just been playing all this P versus P all that time, and I was just like and then I started to think of all the different scenarios you could have where you are melding those, because let's be honest, combat people make up a big percentage of this game, but the other side that want all those different experiences, and I just went, oh, we could have some real winners here.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
even see the same type of thing with the medical gameplay.
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you which medicines are best for which because I very rarely need them.
Hmm.
So I don't do the medical gameplay because I just
well
I'm either dead, I'm alive. There's never any in between.
They taught me little things like that. There was a little thing on the med gun I'd never seen, like you turn it into advanced mode, click auto, and then you could shoot yourself and it automatically gives you exactly what you need at that time. I did not know that's how that worked. I thought you had to know and move it yourself and shoot yourself. And I was like, oh my God, this is so simple. And there was just lots of little things like that they knew from their time at playing, and where I'm more on the kind of utility side. Now I can, I play first person. Well, they were surprised how well I handled myself, right? Because some guy got in the cave and he was shooting at the other guy, and I just flanked him and shot him in the head, and they went, "You can kill people."
You do, because you do first person shooters a lot. Yeah. Like you don't do it in Star Citizen a lot, but you do it a lot in other games, and so. That doesn't surprise me.
I love that.
It would be good if I did that. That'd be like a miracle. But
that new gun, oh my God, I love that new gun. It is like being. So I've said to a few people, like the Emperor in Star Wars, unlimited power. It is so much like doing that, but in a gun. And so you start shooting at them, and it's like all these little electricity pieces, and then it goes into this giant beam, and then it just goes insane. And the second guy that got into the cave, he incapacitated me, right? And I at the time when I died, I had a full beam going in his face. And then it turns out they were trying to find him. They picked me up with a tractor beam and sucked me up the cliff, and then instantly revived me, and I skid along the ground. That's how good at this they were. They could res me out of the air, right? And then I got back up, and I went. I said, I'm going to go back down. Just res me again if he shoots me or whatever. I got back down to where I'd shot the guy, and he was dead there on the ground. We'd actually traded, but it was, like I just had a really good evening. It was and most of it was stuck in this goddamn hole. But like the fact that we actually had something to fight over, it wasn't just this needless killing stuff. Like we were all trying to get these resources. It really just upped the ante, and everyone had a great time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, the downside to it is a PvP event, but for me, I have not had this type of, I wouldn't say it's quite at Jumptown levels. That was had a lot more tension, but I would say it's the best we've had in a long time.
And I think, go on, let me.
I was going to say, on that topic, it's kind of funny because this was very much sold to us as a PvE event.
Yes.
But it's clearly not. I mean,
no, it's if CIG think that's a PvE event, their heads cut. They have no idea.
Yeah.
So all the things that they are, like, don't BS us, don't feed us crap and say, oh, this is a PvE event. If it's not, say it's a PvP event. Like, it frustrates me when you're told X and it ends up being Y in terms of game, especially if it's the gameplay style, because people will go to that event expecting that gameplay style, and the second it's not there, they're going to be pissed.
I think because it's not a limited time event, I think eventually it will die down quite a lot. because it's got legs right now because all the PvPers and those big orgs are coming in trying to earn themselves a Polaris and stuff like that. Give it 3 months, it'll drop right down, and I think it'll eventually become a dynamic event.
So Parker's saying to him it seemed more like a PvP VE event.
It is. That's exactly what it is. It's a combined event, but it is predominantly a P versus P event. Like I'm going to be honest, most of the PvE, like the Ninetales and the Worms, not much of a challenge. Like they'll damage you maybe. I think the worst I ever got down to without, like when I was taking on an entire room of worms, I didn't heal and I went down to 50% health, and then I was back to fighting form, and then off I went. And that was when I was in a room that had no cover. But most of the trouble I had was players. They're the real trouble. So the difficulty of the worms will obviously, and the PvE stuff needs to be adjusted. It is literally too easy.
I was going to say, if you're doing it as a PvE, mainly a PvE event, you want the NPCs to be jacked up. If it's mainly a PvP event, you want the NPCs jacked down because you want the threat to be from players. Yeah. So, but that's just me venting. One of the things I was thinking in terms of the way we're talking about the expertise, I would expect the FPS players to be good at what medical gameplay we've got at the moment. And I know the medical gameplay is not really there. It's kind of a mess at the moment. There are several people in chat who mentioned that. But they still know that better than, say, PvE people who don't, or people who don't really go into that and don't put themselves in harm's way as much. Because if you're not putting yourself in harm's way, you don't need it.
All right, we'll talk about medical more in a second, actually, when I get over. We've only got 2 questions. One of the reasons Algared and I talk so much is we try to let you guys get some questions and pull up some questions. So if you could please send some questions through. We've got a couple more things to talk about, but then we're going to get to the questions. And as you guys know, if the questions run out, the stream ends. That's how this all works. Right.
And Lemming, you've got to make sure that if you want to say something, you butt in, because, we'll just fill the void.
Oh, he does the and then you hear his sound, don't you? I always know when he wants to talk, because he does this deep breath Vader thing. But I do want to ask both you and Lemming this. What do you think of this subscriber flare? Because I think this is kind of meh. So what's up? For those that are listening, it has a Wicklow jacket, which is not Wicklow. It's the hologram on the back of Wicklow's jacket, and a Banu kind of bathtub with a Wicklow hologram above it. That is the sub flare for this month, and I'm not a fan. I'm just not. Like, I would have much preferred something Banu, or actually the real Wicklow on the back of a jacket. Like, this just feels a bit.
Yeah.
I have a theory about subscriber stuff. I think a lot of the subscriber and concierge and everything like that is all going to be it's all going to change in a couple months. I think July is going to be when we're going to see kind of the future of those programs between the referral revamp. I highly suspect that there's going to be a concierge revamp either at the same time or soon after. To answer your question about how I feel about this, it's better than a janky crate chair.
Okay, I'd take the crate chair, especially if you could move the crate chair around. That'd be really cool. Right, Algared, I think you agree with me. This is not their best effort, but Lemming kind of let the thing out of the bag there too that I was going to talk about, which was the referral program. A lot of people are really annoyed about that because they're really close to getting a Gladius or something like that, and all those people and it's the same thing. Ironically, it's the same thing that happened to me and you. We did all our referrals before the referral primary existed. I probably referred 40 plus people, and then over the however long the referral program existed, I've only got another 22. People seem to think as content creators, me and Algared have got heaps of them. We've got hardly any. Right, because we got all tapped at the beginning when there wasn't even a referral program. So now they're doing another one. The thing that I have kind of realized, and I don't have a screen to bring up here, so let's go back to this, is essentially this favors people that are onboarding referral program people. So people like Space, Board, Morphologist, any of those people that bring new people into the game, it favors them. It does not favor regular people or the content creators at the back. So I do think you can actually separate content creators into like 3 groups: the onboarders, the people kind of in the middle for most people, and then me and Algared are kind of at the back with this veteran group, those hardcore players back. Now that's the place me and Algared have chosen to be. That's not us complaining. It's just that it is clearly built for onboarders, and I think you'll see that they're the people they almost want to refresh it, because if you think about someone like Morphologist, where he's just got so many of them, what are they going to do? Just keep throwing javelins at him? Or that he doesn't care about that. He's got no motivation to do anything. So I think that partially the whole reason to do this is to motivate the onboarders to bring more people in. I don't think you got to look at the referral program for us regular folks, or me and Algared as other content creators, but specific content creators is who this is being tailored at.
Yeah. Look, Parker in YouTube says every change isn't a cash grab, and I agree with that. Just because you change something doesn't mean you're trying to maximize cash. He says a lot of those people also get giveaways. Look, we're part of the giveaway program. That's why most of the giveaways we do are results of CIG giving us stuff to give away. But those changes they're making, if they're making any changes to the referral program, they're changes we've been asking for. Revamp, people have been saying for years now, revamp the referral program. Yeah. Make it so it's more filtered down, so that the rewards are spread out.
But why reset it? And the only thing I can think of for a reset is those onboarding content creators. And let's be honest, that those people do bring a lot of new people in. And I think that tells that's a very telling thing, that most of the money that CIG are making is in new people. That's a really big, obvious, like yes, we are a big group of veterans, so to speak, but how can this older group, and I don't mean as in age, I mean this oldest, like as the game grows, let's be honest, you're going to be getting more and more new people coming in. So basically selling starter ships must be more profitable than selling the big end of town. That tells you a lot, right?
Well, CIG have always said, you only need a starter pack. And I think, that anyone who brings new people in is a bonus. And I think if they reset the referral program, fantastic. Like, that just means they're looking at, it doesn't mean they're going to take anything away they've already given. It just means they're going to revamp the order and do what people have been asking to do with the referral program for as long as I can remember.
Luna Maria, I'm not naming them in a negative way. I'm saying what CIG is doing is benefiting them. They have no choice in this matter. It was made without their consent. So to name them, I'm not saying that this is any way their fault. I'm just saying it benefits them. And that's great. I'm actually happy that they have things that benefit them as content creators, and different things that CIG do different. All I was saying is that there are people, because what most people do is going to go, this benefits content creators. Yes, it does, but there are different types of content creators. The referral program has never benefited me and Algared as an example. That's all I'm trying to bring out, because when people put content creators all in one basket, I don't like that, because it doesn't affect all of us the same.
It depends on the type of content they're doing. Is what X is saying. And if you're doing stuff to help the new people that's going to draw people in, then you're naturally going to benefit. We don't really do stuff for the beginners. Most of our stuff is focused on the older player, but it's going to benefit anyone who's bringing friends in. Now I hope. I hope that the start levels are a lot smaller, like 1, 2, 3. Get one person and you get this. And they're spread out over a longer period. But most of my referrals, were done before we started the program, as you were saying.
Real quick, JM Corp says the new player rate is down. Only reason they're changing it. That could be true too. Lemming, you were going to say?
Yeah. So I want, again, kind of glass half full. So I think this gives them a really good opportunity to reward loyalty in different way, like different kinds of loyalty in the same way. So it was probably 3 or 4 years ago now, Tyler talked about something called star points. And you could gain these through like just like your spending and referrals and
actually that's
a subscription.
Yeah, I remember that, and you do make a good point. We are coming up to release a squadron. You could be onto something there. I mean, yeah, good catch. Yeah, good catch.
So I think this may actually be a way to reward the people that have been here and continue to stay here in a similar way that rewards those content creators that get new people in, because really it takes a village. I mean,
yeah. Well, let's hope let's hope it's a system that favors all of us across the board in a better way.
Right, exactly.
Not just kind of focused at those that bring in tons of new people, because I always found that a bit unfair, and that's as like there's nothing I could really do about it. But like you've got, and again I'll say Morphologist, but he's got multiple javelins over and over, and then Hiraman and Algared at the other side. And Algared doesn't have many either, right? That are basically got hardly any. So it's a real disparity of how it was designed. So I hope that they essentially address those. And I don't mean just for us because we're content creators. I mean for regular folks as well. I want the whole thing.
I don't do the help program much because I just don't get as much time in game as I'd like. But I'd like to see the referral program actually give rewards or the similar rewards for how many people. You know, if you're one of the guides, you get a referral for every person you actually guide.
If you listen to what Lemming said, I think that's what he's referring to. You're getting these star points. So depending on what you're doing they're giving you those. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you get star points for all lots of different things that you can do. So, you know, they'll give you star points for doing an event, maybe even. You know,
and I think that is huge. Like, and if they do it like you organize a bar citizen, you get star points. You know, you do a help someone, you get star points. I think that is a huge increase on just you get someone to sign up.
Yeah.
You know, someone signs up, but they never play the game because they cannot get into the game. That doesn't benefit anyone. But if someone signs up and you guide them through and get them playing the game and enjoying it, I think that is much bigger, a much bigger boon than someone just buying a starter pack. But that's just me.
Yeah. All right. So the last thing I wanted to... Oh, go ahead, Lemming, if you got something to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm very much of a glass half full kind of person. So, like...
Unless you're talking about Drake ships, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. Unless you're talking about the C2. And then there is practically no glass. But...
No, it's all...
sorry.
That's why
I just love it. No, sorry, I just had to throw that in there because I've seen Lemming go off, and it's a thing of joy because he's such a placid guy, and then he's like the C2, rah, and he just like transforms into the Hulk or something. It's just great. I love it. Go ahead, Lemming. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm like all flustered now.
Yeah, threw him off. I knew that's what
he does that to you, doesn't he? He does it to you. He throws you under the bus, and then expects you to boom, I'm back. Yeah.
Because I can move on my feet, but most people can't. I know that how people work. Anyway, sorry, let me go ahead.
So again, until like so many people have been like, oh my God, cash grab. Oh my God, this, that. I mean, like at the end of the dialogue coming from CIG on this, like their parting word was, hey everybody, we're reading this in other threads and are going to be discussing this in the future. So give them a little bit of time to figure things out. I don't think they thought that wiping referrals was going to be the end of the world for a lot of people. And I think they very strongly got the message that a whole lot of people didn't like it. So
yeah,
I don't think there's malice. I don't think there's anything. I think they didn't read the room right.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I think what I think they'll do after the blowback is they'll find a way to convert it over to the new system. That's my kind of reading the tea leaves type thing.
And I don't even think it's a matter of not reading a room right. Like for years, people have been saying revamp the referral system.
Mm.
You know, I've lost count of how many times I've heard people say, "Oh, they need to revamp the referral system. Referral system sucks. It needs to be revamped." So Serge, you go, "Okay, we're going to revamp the referral system," and all of a sudden, everyone else is going, "No."
I think the problem fundamentally is they said we're taking it away, but they didn't show what they're going to replace it with.
Yeah.
So if they'd said we're taking this away, but we're going to put this in, like you've said about the star point system and all that, Lemming, and they explained that, no blowback would have occurred. It's just like it's the not knowing that causes the issues, right? And again, we've always said CIG has this communication problem. It is a communication problem. They have not explained themselves in full.
And you can understand that, because the second you say we're going to do this, you know, we're taking it away and we're going to add this. If they don't add that, people again get annoyed. And so we want to take we want to take this away and revamp it, but we're not exactly sure what we're going to replace it with yet. But we want it to be fair and equal and all the rest of it. But they're not saying that because they don't want to be locked in. It's a bit like, we haven't sold the module, therefore we're not committed to having to build it. It's that type of.
Carsten says in YouTube chat that they promised a rework Concierge. Someone was saying last night when I was playing with Voidy that they're probably going to do that at the same time. But they've had multiple Concierge managers go through CIG promising stuff, and it's clearly that they can't get the tools made to do what they want to do, so they move on. They've had multiple people, so it's just not a pro. It's like, do you actively take developers off making the game to make this side system? And it's just not a priority, right? And so that's why it's why so many things at CIG have fallen by the wayside. And hopefully, with what they're promising this year, they're going to bring a lot of those things up. Like, they're going to fulfill a lot of those promises on the sides. That sounds what they're like trying to do. They're like essentially going, we've got. It's almost like tech debt. They're almost saying, like, we've got all this community debt that we've got to fix, in a way. And I don't know what else to call that, right? I think you guys will see where I'm trying to go, right? And I think that seems to be what they're doing this year. They're trying to fix all this stuff that they've talked about, and hopefully they get it done. Lemming?
Yeah.
I've kind of a funny thing here. Can you imagine if they did this with Concierge level? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. If they just came out and they said, hey, you know what? We're just going to wipe all that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, so that was the other thing they did talk about, and this pissed a lot of people off. Like, they're like, oh, I finally got Concierge, and now they're like, now we're going to segregate Concierge and make it into 10 different levels. And I was just like, that's a bit of a dick move. So I'm going to retroactively lose shit because I haven't spent a mega amount of money. That's literally what they said at one point. I was literally looking at it going, I'm going to lose things that I've got now because I haven't spent like $15,000. That was the thing I looked at. And I was like, I'm not going to spend $15,000 just to retain these perks. But that's really annoying that you're taking it away. And they seem to have removed that now. Rather than adding new shit. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I would hope that anything that's already been allocated stays.
Yeah, that's
they rework
that's what I'm saying.
They actually then do the new levels. And I can't see them retracting stuff and taking it away if it's already been attributed to the account.
At the time, they did say that, but
but I would hope to see them not do that, because that would be pretty crass. Yeah. But I know, again, with the Concierge people, you know, we've often said back in the day, $1,000 to get into Concierge was a lot.
Pretty ridiculous if you think about it. It's like buying 10 normal games. That's more. That happened this week too. I don't know if you knew about that. Lemming can probably talk to that. Did you hear about the Switch 2, Lemming?
Yeah. Well, I heard that because of events that happened this week. That
subtle. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. That the Switch 2 may go up to $800 for the console in the States.
Yeah. There was talks of 3D printers going up by 54%.
Yeah.
That's insane. So for those of you who haven't heard, they announced the Switch 2 kind of yesterday or the day before, somewhere in there. And essentially the games initially the scare was $90, but it looks like they're going to be $80. But now with the tariffs on top of that, that could make games $100 in the States, which is kind of freaky. Welcome to Australian pricing, is all I can say. We pay $100 for most of our games. Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
JD4427 says, if they burn the whales, the company deserves to burn. No, I don't think that their desire is not to burn the whales. Now, I was saying, like, $1,000 for getting into Concierge used to be the bar, and it used to be seen as that's a really high bar. But in realism, and even though it's, you know, as you said, 16 or so games, regular games, but when you look at the other things, let me finish. Don't cut in, please.
Like you did to me just before, but go ahead.
Yeah. But when you look at the levels of what's done, people have been saying for ages, revamp that Concierge level. Do different levels. So I don't see a problem with it. I don't see it as burning the whales. It's showing that, as you said, it's kind of like tech debt, doing that payback to, we've got a lot of community debt to pay back. And that's what they're looking at. Yeah. And I think it's one of the things that certainly CIG has always tried to do, is make those who are purchasing the game feel like they are part of the enterprise, part of a program and part of a system. And that's one of the reasons why their customer service aimed at being so good.
Anyway, now, you killed my joke there quite a bit. I was trying to say they wouldn't burn the whales, they would eat the whales because they eat the rich. That's the saying. That's all I was going to say. Mm-hmm. Anyway, all right. We still don't have a lot of questions, so I've got one last thing to talk about, but go ahead, Lemming, if you want to continue.
So to circle back to the original topic that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. So if them canceling CitizenCon, well, I'm sorry, not canceling CitizenCon. That's arsonist stuff. Then, if them not having to plan a physical CitizenCon means that Tyler can instead spend 4 weeks working on revamps for the referral program and this and that and this and that, that's a good thing.
Essentially, this needs to be an IRC. Why CitizenCon Digital? Why this? Why that? Like, I would literally just on an IRC live get Tyler on and just ask him a bunch of questions, and maybe a couple of other community people as well. Well, because when's the last time they actually had a community manager IRC? They've never done it. That's why. And they can just answer a bunch of questions that the community wants to know, because there's obviously a few things have happened this week. I think they should. I don't know if they're planning to do that, but I'd have them on IRC live and they don't have to be sit there and roasted. Just answer some questions. That'd be great. Because you'll find when you answer a few questions, it basically the anger goes down. It's the not knowing. Everyone will tell you, everyone's the same. When you don't know shit, you get frustrated. It's just. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just saw Shinobi Trip's comment in YouTube. Coincidentally, whale meat is very salty.
It is. It is.
And whales, I do think in games tend to be fairly salty. So, it's quite humorous.
All right. The last thing I want to go over, and I don't want to make this we told you so, but I do want to talk about the monthly report, because they essentially confirmed a lot of what we've been saying. And we did get a lot of blowback from certain segments of the community, but when I went on X the day after this drop, there was a lot of people going, oh geez, they were right. So I'm just going to read this one segment. Let me find it. So I'm really just going to read this last line. The second, so they're talking about ships that were, the first one was the Apollos. The Apollo's more delayed than we expected. I heard people saying it had been sitting there for months ready. But the second is the RSI Perseus passed its white box review at the start of March. Like the Apollo, some areas progressed visually thanks to the RSI kit. So if that just hit white box in March, there is no way it's coming for Invictus. It is, it's dead as a dodo, not coming. And that's exactly on par with what you and I were saying, with the 18-month track. That, like, it was such a pivotal piece of information that John gave us, and we've been trying to get it out there, but it doesn't. So and I've said in multiple videos now, if there's one thing I can teach you, is that remember what John and Ben said. ships, no matter the size of them, they always take 18 months because there's all these checks and balances they've got to go through. So they've got to sign them off with different teams and stuff. And that just because the team's got to take that thing away. They've got to have time to look at it and analyze it and go, yeah, this works for us in gameplay. And or if they're the design team, and then it comes back and that's going to go out to another person. And it always takes 18 months is what he told us, right? And so essentially when you add that in, there was no way this thing was coming.
And I think to clarify that, like when they said 18 months, I think we'd ask the question, well, is that for all ships? And they basically said, yeah, because we've got all these checks and balances that have to be done, and there's a certain process to that. So, but it does indicate that, as we said earlier, it does put those ships at kind of ready for IAE.
Yeah, and this is the other thing that's here. The MISC Starlance attack moved to final development stage. So that kind of tells me that that's more than likely coming in Invictus. I am still hopeful. And they don't mention the Ironclad at all. At all. I am hopeful that it is still coming at Invictus. We could be completely wrong on that as well. But it just makes sense to me. You've got 2 big ships coming this year, 1 at each sail. That just... Like, why would you double up a Perseus and an Ironclad at the same sail? Now, I know I've had people say one comes at CitizenCon, but traditionally speaking, for the last... I'd have to do the math, but the last couple of years, the medium ships come at CitizenCon.
Yep. And it's interesting, the TAC, is getting that final movement, which makes it pop in line for coming in Invictus launch week, and it's a military style ship. So again, it fits for that. So it's like dots all aligning. Yeah.
So yeah. There are a few other things in here as well that those mentions of, like, because again, if you want to watch this, I'll refer you to Astropub. He sits there and reads this on a regular basis. Space Tomato reads it as well as many others. Pick your person that you like to listen to if you don't like to read. But basically, they go through and read it for you and give you their 2 cents. But essentially, there's some really interesting happens with scanning as well that I was really excited about as well. But I think everyone will take different things from reading that, and sometimes reading it you can't absorb it. I'm one of those people. I'm not very good when I read things, but if someone tells it to me, I take it in a lot better. So I do like listening to Paul or Space myself. But you do you.
No, they do find there's dulcet tones, especially if you're listening to Space. Space is the type of guy you can turn on and it's not that he's boring.
Wow!
It's just
Wow! I'll tell him you said that.
It's not that it's boring or anything. It's just that it's
Yeah, Space's delivery method is very soothing.
That is.
So it's not that he's boring by any means. It's just soothing. It's
he can be ranting and it's like
yep.
So yeah, unlike us, when we rant, we're not very soothing. I believe.
No. Difference between ones, isn't that? All right, so that's kind of everything I wanted to go over. We have a few questions there to go over, but if you do have a question, make sure you get it in and we'll be able to get to it pretty quickly. Any statements you want to put in there as well, feel free to put question and then just statement so we know that it's a statement. But yeah, feel free to get some questions in there as well. We do not have very many there to go through.
No, we've only got half a dozen. So anyway, our first question comes from Wolf Blitzer. He says, OBS is pretty good. I use it in conjunction with Restream, which is questionable. Yep. Didn't we start using Restream, or is that something that...
We had Restream, and the problem with Restream was that it essentially hijacked the chat, and I didn't like the fonts and that. Like, they charge you... They charge way too much for like you get the main service for free, but all these little extras they charge way too much for. And so basically that's what our bot does. And Paul uses our bot now. There's just no reason to kind of have Restream. I think he does use Restream for some of his chat as well. But I actually prefer having 2 separate chats because then I know where they're coming from.
Yeah, I like that as well. I like the way our bot, when it drags our questions out, it actually indicates whether it's YouTube or Twitch.
And it allows us to. So if you're on Twitch as an example, it allows you to use all the Twitch features and we see those. If you're on YouTube, it allows you to use the YouTube features and we see those. So I actually prefer that, where when you use Restream, you can at us and we wouldn't see that, as an example. Yeah.
I've got to admit, I've got Twitch running here, and I've got YouTube there, but in smaller text, I've actually got them on either side of a shared screen, and so I can see either text coming, and I can actually at times read it. But if it's too small or name's not coming up or something, I can go check my larger font size. So yeah.
The other thing who reminded me of that? Someone Toron, thank you on Twitch for reminding me. Yeah, there's about 10 ships mentioned in this, by the way. 10 ships that are in production right now. A whole bunch of them are not new. I speculated with a few people on what some of these could be. This is the one that we were really interested in, a variant of a popular ship past grey box review. Now, would you say the Valkyrie, Lemming, I'll ask you this too, is the Valkyrie a popular ship or not?
No.
Okay. So, because
I concur.
Yeah, because I was wondering if it was the Paladin and the Asgard, because they mention a variant of that. And the only ship we kind of really know of that we've heard of is the Asgard. But the other thing I thought it might be is maybe it's in a variant of the Apollo. Now, would you say the Apollo is a fairly popular ship? And I think that is, yeah.
I'm very certain that it's a Zeus variant.
Oh, why do you think it's a Zeus variant?
Because there's still one Zeus that needs to come out. It's in the RSI library, and earlier in that paragraph, they talk about using the Zeus's toolkit to quickly make ships.
It could be the ST. Yeah, okay. I'll give you that.
Yep.
It could be the ST. It could be an unnamed Zeus variant. The Zeus is a fantastic platform that could be used for all kinds of stuff.
And it also uses the RSI kit.
You feeling okay, Lemmy? You're not ill at all? The Zeus is a fantastic ship. My ass. The pokey little closet that it is.
He said it's a fantastic platform.
Yeah. I think the Zeus is a fantastic platform that's being underutilized in the cargo variant. I think the ES is a great ship.
I think time will tell, but my thoughts on that ship. The problems with that ship are not its functions. It's essentially that it's a 3-person ship that you can't walk 2 people abreast in. So if I'm carrying a box out to the cargo bay and Algared comes in, I've got to stand there and walk off to one side so he can get past. I can't just walk past him in the door. That's the biggest problem.
And yet you know full well from Ben that was deliberate, and it was something he wanted to have it even more.
Yeah, I know, but it's really annoying. I hate it. If you like that in your ships, like if you what do you call it when you like compact spaces like cats? What do you call that? Claustrophobic, or what? If you like to be claustrophobic, that's awesome, but not for me.
If you don't like open spaces, if you're an agoraphobe, then that's a ship for you.
At least it's not like Tally claustrophobic.
I'd say the Tally's better. That's the scary thing.
What?
The tally, you when you walk into those midsection rooms, you can walk past each other. You can't do that in this. You've actually got to walk back to previous rooms and stuff to get around. I think the main problem is that 3-door area, but I'll freely agree the Retaliator is bad, but man, I debatable which one's worse to me.
But I also liked, I hated Retaliator because of that sense of corridors being hard to get past and all the rest of it. But I also liked the Tally because it did get up that World War II submarine type feel. If you've had a chance to go in one of those subs, you're going down the corridors, and it is literally, you're getting past people is at times difficult. And it had that sense and it had that feel. And if the Zeus was picking up that feel and trying to get that, every space is essential, and we want to limit that. That came through, and then picking up that with the Tally, you get that, and so I think they actually hit the nail on the head. Is it great for players or NPCs and avatar navigation?
Yeah,
probably not, but it's trying to get that balance.
So again, it's always just enough for us to hang ourselves with this. I am still hopeful of the Ironclad and Invictus. Again, we could be wrong there, but based on the 80-month timeline thing, we should get the Ironclad. I think realistically, you and I have been through enough sales now to say at most you get us 3 ships. The fact that this is kind of spread out with Alien Week, I would hope something comes at Alien Week, so we might get 2 at Invictus, but we have also got look at what happened with the Fury, where we got the Fury and then we got 2 vehicles. There are vehicles mentioned in this, by the way. So I think realistically, my hope is something like a vehicle, a small and a medium or a large. I also think when you talk about that, by the way, that doesn't always mean it's straight to flyable. You could get a concept for something, right? And then, what that would be, again, you can't tell because concepts, you got no idea they're coming.
But then we've also got the things we've heard, like we'll be happy with what's coming this year.
Yes.
Those types of comments. So we know there's a lot coming, and we know there's a heap that's being touted. Here's some positives for popular ships. Now, I'm not saying these are them. The BMM is a popular ship. Could you see a variant of the BMM? The Constellation is a popular ship. Could you see a reworked Phoenix and getting its own work?
How big is the definition of popular? Is essentially what you're asking.
But and they're pure speculative, dreaming type stuff. But it's not saying there are. But as you said, it's what do we mean by popular? How many ships do have to be sold, or how many people do have to like a ship? But yeah.
Just because someone just asked this, I'm going to answer this one because he obviously just missed what we were talking about. So Rao in YouTube chat literally asks about this. Yes, we are getting a digital CitizenCon. It's called CitizenCon Direct, and it lands October 11th. That was the very first thing we talked about, Rao. That's okay. So I'll answer your question because I don't want to go back all over that again when that comes up later. So I will drop that in both chats for you guys now if you want to see it yourself. There you go. That is
I'll
a link to that.
Also chuck in Shimpas's question on that, which was thoughts on the CitizenCon announcement on Spectrum, prudent move or financial issues, and we just think it's a prudent move based on previous planning.
Yeah, we've been saying for a while, once we heard that it was kind of moved, a lot of it's because of the world tour and stuff like that. It was Batgirl mentioned it would have been in December sometime last year. And we've been like when she said that, we know that she knows a lot of stuff, so we were pretty sure it wasn't coming straight away.
And it lined up, and that was lining up with stuff we'd heard or assuming as well. So it just, for us, it was just dots aligning. So but I think as we were saying or alluding to, short answer, it's a prudent move, not a financial one, in my opinion. So.
God.
Okay, so Parker XGPS says, do you think Nix is waiting for dynamic meshing?
Not necessarily. You could do it just like they did Pyro. My hope is that, when we heard it last year, I just assumed this year's CitizenCon would have something to do with Nix. But again, a lot of plans changed at the start of this year, so that might not happen. Nix might get pushed back to 1.0 release, which will, let's be honest, it's looking more and more likely that Squadron 42 will release next CitizenCon, not this CitizenCon. And again, they might release it earlier at a different time or sometime in 2026. But I just get the feeling CitizenCon just lines up so perfectly with the start of that holiday season. It's just a really good place to release it. Both, because it works for the community, but it also works for the broader community going to the holiday season of Christmas and all that type of stuff. So I just can't see them kind of passing that up, where if you just randomly drop it in June, you know, like they've got to put their best foot forward. And let's be honest, we all want CIG to succeed. So we do want them to sell at a point where they're going to hit a lot side of that outside audience, because if we all want this to be that really big game that we're hoping for, it's, you know, they can't take a step wrong. Essentially, you've only got to do one thing wrong and you don't get a second chance, and that's why they're being so cautious and trying to do everything correctly.
Yep. Now I'm going to pick up Carsten's question because I don't think it came through as a question, but he says it's relating to the BMM. He says, according to law, there is no variant of a BMM, is there? And that's basically, as I understand it, true, because originally the BMM was the family ship of the Banu, which was used for everything. So when they needed military, the families would turn up in their big ships, and that's why the BMM had the big guns and everything else. It literally did the jack of all trades. Since then, we know that CIG have developed the Suloi a little bit more. So you have a Suloi that's now dedicated to military. So the Defender is built by the Suloi that builds military ship. We've got Suloi that do other things, and so in some ways it looks like a watered down or variant of the Xi'an, but not quite. And I'd have to go back and do a lot more reading on what those changes are. But initially, my understanding is the BMM was a unique ship with no variants. But that doesn't mean, because of the changes, they can't bring out one that's more political focus or more military focus.
Algared pretty much learned when he asked John about the Ares, just how much they give zero fucks about law. They basically essentially went, we wanted to make this big gun ship on a Crusader, so we did it. And once they did that, they had to rewrite the entire law around it. So and that does happen with most games. That the story is completely secondary to good gameplay. And I do disagree with some of their choices, because it could have just been a different manufacturer and it would have solved the problem.
And I think when I said, when I pointed out that the Ares could have been a Kruger ship and lined up, they kind of went, oh, for me it was like those the nodding, oh yeah, we could have done that, that would have worked, but
in the moment they didn't think of it. That's fine.
But they just didn't think of it at the time, and I think that's on the law team for not picking up and saying, hey, this ship would be really good as.
They've probably been told to shut the hell up and stay out of their way.
I think it may have even been the ship had already gone so far down the track in terms of that development process and using the assets and all the other stuff that you couldn't do that. But it certainly felt like there was that, oh yeah, we could have done that.
Go ahead, Lemmy.
Yeah,
we got told Benoit is a...
I think it's more that direction of, I don't think that the lore team gets told every time that a ship gets pitched.
No, I reckon they're told right at the end, hey, what do you want to call this? And
how do we
and this is what it does and all that, and here you go, fit this in the law. Yeah, I don't, again, as I said, most story stuff, like people seem like, I remember having this arguments with a friend of mine, and he used to always go, nah man, they do the story first, how would they make it? So I'm like, it's because they're really good writers and they can make it fit into the thing. And I just remember these it was like beating a dead horse trying to explain shit to him.
But the problem is it's both. Like Dave Haddock, when we was on the Law Citizens podcast, he said basically we paint the framework with a 12-inch brush. So we have a framework there to say this is the bounds we're in, but then we leave enough space so that the developers can actually create stuff.
Yeah, but it's not both. Sorry,
and then we fill in the and then you fill in the fine detail of the law.
I have to correct you. It is not both. Gameplay trumps story 100%.
And I'm not.
You said sorry, but you
to what I'm saying.
Yeah,
no, you're not.
I am, but you said it's both. It can't be both. By its very definition, it can't be both.
Both in terms of the framework is set, and then the gameplay is put in, and then you fill in the fine detail.
It's like the gameplay is the foundation.
Let me finish.
It's like the gameplay is the foundation and the story is set dressing.
Let me finish, because the classic example is Crusader themselves. So if you read the law piece on Crusader that says all the past humanitarian relief and everything else, you right at the end it says Crusader have bought the planet and blah, blah, blah. Will they be able to change, are they changing the way they approach things? And so it opens a door for putting in things like the Ares and other stuff. So it opens a door for the developers to do what they want to do. But
still not both.
Story still lines the outside and sets a framework. No,
it's still not both. They basically always build a building and then the story goes around it to add extra detail. It is not both. Gameplay will always trump story. It always does. I've had this argument with so many people. If you talk to anyone that does game development, you are not making a story, you are making a game. There's a very big difference between how movies are made. So a movie is a story, right? And I will agree, story is what a movie is. But when you make a game has to be fun to play. The story can add to it, but it does not make the game.
We're going to disagree, and I'm going to say, okay.
That's fine.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but I disagree.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. I've had this argument with so many people. I will eventually prove you wrong, because again, I've done this argument many, many times. It's totally fine to be passionate about story, to be passionate about lore, but you got to remember, we are making a game. We are not making a story. If it was just a movie, I would 100% agree with you. But we are making a game. If the game is not fun, it is not a game.
You have not listened to what I've said, is what I'm going to say, and I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay, well, then we'll talk about it later. Okay, but
I think it's time to move on.
Everything I heard didn't change my mind. All right, cool. Next one.
Yep, ditto. So Carsten Kroll Christensen says, "Am I the only one who is thinking the Polaris interior is kind of sad or boring?"
No, it's a bit bland.
No. I don't mind it. It's a military ship. Could it do with an updressing? Yeah, sure. But I don't.
But I think that was shown when we saw the Idris. We showed like how much they expect for individual captains to eventually decorate their ships.
Yeah.
And the Polaris is perfect for that kind of thing. It's a great framework that needs like carpets and stuff like that added to it.
Yeah, but there's little things like it doesn't have color coding and stuff like a lot of military ships do. Like it's not breaking up so you can tell which is the left side of the ship or the right side of the ship. This is all really common stuff in naval ships. So you can essentially be blindfolded, right? And then open your eyes and literally know exactly where you are on the ship just from the colors or shit like that. None of that. It's got none of it. So they just, again, by the fact that the captain's quarters was not out when that ship was out, it didn't have the extra bit of time it needed to go back and do that texture work. I do hope, much like other ships like the Carrack that they've come back to a couple of times to update things, that is something that will get done in the future. And maybe they didn't have those art assets. You got the Perseus and a few other ships they're doing there. Maybe as they do those, they'll take those color-coded things and roll them back into the Polaris eventually.
Yeah. I would imagine that the vast majority of the set dressing team, and I'm just going to call them something that I just made up in my head, are working on Squadron.
Yeah, but you still got the props team as well. The props team would fall into that as well. But I think it's just timing. I think they ran out of time. Like the captain's quarters thing, I can't look past that. It just... They just wanted to get it out, and it doesn't change. It's not a priority, obviously. It doesn't change how the game plays. It's just a convenience. So eventually, as they do a gold pass, they'll come back and fix that.
And they'll do that with every ship as time goes on, and you know. Yeah. Darth Digit. We know they are working on the RSI Galaxy, not mentioned, but when do you think the Galaxy?
No, they're not working on the Galaxy anymore. They literally said that they've moved the Perseus in instead. And that's when we learned that they were working on the Perseus. So I would assume the Galaxy is on the shelf because that's why the build has essentially been announced, because I think the only thing I can really speak to that is when John Kerr and Ben talked about artists wanting to work on different things because they kind of get a bit strained and bored. So they wanted to do a myth ship instead of an RSI one. And I think that's, I don't know if you want to add to that, Algared, but that's all I can really think of. Why it was paused.
It makes sense in terms of that. Just drawing on people's creativity and enabling them to refresh. So if you're working in RSI all the time, after a while you get stale, you go to something else, you work on something else, you get your creative juices flowing again, you go back to RSI and you're feeling refreshed. It's not the same old, same old. So any job's like that. If you're doing the same thing day in, day out, it gets drab. So, yeah. Radium TX.
I just want to say really quickly, for the people that disagree with me, please tell me the story of Tetris. All right. Go ahead,
Algared. Radium TX says, do you believe we will be able to have our character's hologram in our shop?
Ooh. I wonder if I've never thought of that. You do get the kind of radio thing that comes up on your screen, but could you actually have a hologram? We've got the render the texture thing. I can't say or not. We do technically see a hologram come up in Squadron 42 on the Stanton, or the Idris. Yeah, I can't see why not. A globe could switch over to a hologram. So like the cartography table on the globe on the Polaris, or the Carrack, the ships that have them. We don't have confirmation either way, though, do we? Or as far as I'm aware, Algared.
I wonder whether you could record a message that was a hologram. So, greetings, welcome to Algared Emporium. But my impression was always you'd have NPCs running your shop. Now, whether that still remains true or not, I don't know. I know that in Dark Age of Camelot,
that would change this significantly if that was a holographic projector and you could put whatever you wanted on it. Now there's a subflare item. That would be amazing.
Yep.
But I remember in Dark Age of Camelot, when you set up your shops around your house, it would be you'd hire an NPC, and the NPC would just be there and take it, and just sell the stuff. They didn't really do much, but it was an NPC, and it was the same with, I think Lotro did the same. You could certainly hire or pay for NPCs that would guard your residence. Not that they did anything, but it was just kind of, hey, I'm awesome. But certainly in Daok, they actually did act as a shop front and, stood behind a desk and sold stuff for you. So I can see that being what CIG do with their stores.
I think that's kind of funny because I always thought that like the BOMs and the Kraken, not the Kraken, and the Privateers shops were going to be pretty much manned by a console. I never even thought that they were going to have an NPC in them.
Yeah, good point. Could have a console there as well. So even though we've got consoles in our shops, I didn't even think of that. But yeah.
I know back in Star Wars Galaxies that you could hire an NPC, you could dress them up, you could do all kinds of interesting stuff to them, and then they would man your shop.
Yeah, and I think being able to dress up your shopkeepers up in crew or whatever just has a purpose and a role. But yeah, I could see the consoles being there. That would be very Star Citizen. I see that as almost, we've talked about it in the past, the different tech levels. So an Origin ship, I would expect, or an Origin shop, I would expect to be using a console because it's automated.
Yeah, true.
But on a Drake ship, which is not as tech driven, I would expect to see an NPC kind of
just running the little console. Yeah.
And even just manning the shop and selling you the stuff. So I could see that. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So yeah.
Next question.
If you've got a question, please chuck them into the chat because we're down to our last 3 or 4. Oh no, we've got a few more.
5, 6, 7.
We've got a few more. We've got a few more. Okay, not as few as I thought.
But still get some in because it is getting light, and we're not even halfway through the stream. So
I know, it's disgusting. More questions. Otherwise, we'll talk about our week again. That was fun. Crivitus, did you see the ship section update? Perseus is now certainly not Invictus, but the unnamed ship that could include the Ironclad.
Yeah. So I want to take this one because there is a wild, and don't take this as an attack on you, please. There is an insane amount of people
weapons. Algared, he's trying to attack us. Let's get him.
Yep. I'm ready.
That think that unannounced means something that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
When it says unannounced on the tracker or in the monthly report, that means we don't know about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
we haven't been told. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't mean ship that they don't want to talk about is now being worked on.
It's stuff like the Golem and Geo that we never saw coming, essentially, is what you're trying to, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, agree with that.
No, 100% agree.
So you didn't attack us. You just said what we both agree anyway.
No. I was more talking about the listeners, because
right. Get your pitchforks out, listeners. Get your pitchforks out. He's coming for you.
Yeah.
Threw my joke under the bus, but that's fine. No, I don't mind. Right. Next question. Full Nelson says, do you think with the referral program change, there'll be a Concierge level change come soon? I think we pretty much addressed that one already.
Before we go on, Crivitus does come back and he says, I said unnamed, not unannounced. So an unnamed ship, I think though an unnamed ship does kind of...
Did they say unnamed?
Yeah, they did. Are you looking at the chat?
I think tomato.
I think an unnamed ship can pretty much be an unannounced ship. A ship we haven't named yet.
I just searched for the word unnamed, and it did not come up on. Look,
okay.
You can look. I'll put it over. See, I'm not lying. It's behind. It's behind me. But it's a little bit off the screen. But I typed unnamed there. Nothing came up. So they didn't, unless they've done it with a hyphen, maybe.
How about unannounced?
Or maybe if I spell unannounced will come up. But for far out, I can't spell for shit. What is it?
Unannounced vehicle. That's about it. That I see there.
What the hell is going on? Unannounced
vehicles. I
don't see anything about unnamed.
And I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But even if it was unnamed, I still think it still falls into that same category. It tends to be stuff that we haven't talked about. So it's an unnamed ship. It's not a ship we've had it given a name before. So.
Yeah, I don't see anything about unnamed. I've never even seen them use the term unnamed. Because, what information does that give us? They're more likely to say it's this, as in it's the Apollo, or it's the Ironclad, or it's unannounced because we haven't told you anything. But that also includes unnamed ships in that. I've never ever heard the phrasing of unnamed in a monthly report.
So I'm sorry, I'm just assuming that it's a guy. So if you're not, I'm deeply sorry.
He's a giant kangaroo. Come on, let me get it right.
So they say that it doesn't specifically say unnamed. It just says two vehicles pass something. So like it says two other vehicles. So it's unnamed by proxy, not by literal.
Two other vehicles received a bug fixing pass, but that also means they could be announced or unannounced or unnamed. If you think about it, it's more than what you're just saying.
But if you look at that last sentence, it says, work continued on 3 unannounced vehicles, 2, and then continue that idea. A variant of a popular ship is also in Grey.
But he's talking about. I searched for 2. Algared, he's just talking about this one though.
Yep.
2 other vehicles received a bug fixing pass. Final work ahead of their release. So that means that could be the Ironclad. Oh no, it's a vehicle. Sorry, it's a vehicle. So
ships are vehicles. Every ship is a vehicle.
True. I don't know. They really do mix their nomenclature. What do you call it? Their nomenclatures.
It could be 2 new mechs.
Yep. Actually, I don't know if mechs are vehicles. That's kind of an interesting thing.
I'm taking the rope and I'm hanging myself.
Yep.
That's basically the.
It's very again, like Algared said about when they write stuff. I think this is a part of the writing thing. They can be very vague. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of ambivalent there, but I don't see the unnamed thing you're talking about, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't see the unnamed.
Doesn't hurt to bring it up though, because it hurts.
No.
It's good to talk. I was gonna say it hurts to talk about. No, it doesn't hurt to talk about it, because again, work it through and you can see.
And
you can find things out.
And I get the sense that that variant of a popular ship is in that section where we're talking about 3 unannounced vehicles. It's in that same paragraph. So basic writing, paragraphs, sentences.
Well, yeah, see, that's the other thing. They do say vehicles and ships, so I'm more inclined to think that the vehicles are ground-based and the ships are ships.
But remember, sentences are single ideas about, a single idea. A paragraph is a group of sentences about the same related idea. And that's how you break them up.
Yeah,
and
but it's all written by the same person, so you're trying to think about their psychological preference, and they seem to be that vehicles are the ground vehicles and ships are ships. Just based on, I'm more likely to not look at it like that. I'm more likely to look at it on the psychology of the person and the person that wrote this and their thinking. And
I'm just saying, they're talking about unannounced vehicles, and then they talk about a popular ship that's also in grey box, and I think that's tying it in with an unannounced vehicle. That's all I got. But
medium. Wait, hang on. Someone said a medium base builder in May, unnamed. Where? Wait, hang on. Base.
All right.
That
So
being content or somewhere else.
So I know that we're talking about rope. So in that section there, in the ship section, it said that they completely redid. Well, they didn't. It didn't say completely, but it implied that they redid the Apollo's a medical area. So that made me think that the Apollo has lost its modularity, which was always a problem, I think, for it, and that it's getting something similar to what the Galaxy has in its medical thing, where it has a tier 1, tier 2, and some number of tier 2s, and then some number of tier 3s.
So
and no tier 1 bit.
I think this goes back to the Caterpillar problem that John talked about. When they put every combination of modules into the game, they actually have to build them and have them saved as a file. So to do and I'm trying to think out how many combinations of 3 you could have. I have to sit down and math it out. But essentially, you have to have the version that has the 2 1s, then the version that has 1 tier 1 and 1 tier 2, and then the version that has 1 tier 1 and 1 tier 3. But not only that, it's on both sides. So once you work that combo out, there's probably 20 variants that they've got to put into the game, or more. I'm not a math genius, but that's how many that could put
a third power.
So how many would that be?
For just the ones that they talked about, which I'm pretty sure. I think that's 12, isn't it?
I'm not a math guy at all. I am terrible at math.
But it's the idea. If you've got, you're talking left and right, you go tier 1, tier 2, but you've then also got tier 1, tier 2. So it's what do you do to one side? When you flip it, you end up with
so if there's 12 variants, you can understand why they'd possibly want to hold off doing that. Because again, that's a lot of memory and a lot of things, because everyone's got to download that version of the ship. So that means if you turn up in your Apollo and I turn up in my Apollo and they're on screen at the same time and they look exactly the same in every single way, they're not. They are completely different, and that creates a memory problem. Where if they actually have just the outside and they've got the interior culled, they are the same. But they don't kind of have that fully implemented in yet. So I think the Apollo is behind interior ship culling is where I'd be expecting, because that'll remove a lot of that issue. But also in the future, when they actually have the proper modular system in, which there's no other way they can do it based on the stuff that they told us, like the Caterpillar and the Endeavour and stuff like that, other than drastically changing how those ships work, that they're going to have to build a module system. But there's an advantage to that, because then essentially a part of turning those modules off on the inside, you can see how it could work with the interior ship culling system.
No, 100% kind of get that, and if essentially every ship and every variant of a ship has to have those is effectively a different ship. Even if we don't see it as a different ship, it's effectively a different ship we've got to build. Whether you build a variant or a module to CIG is 6 of one, half a dozen of another at that point. So,
there's other precedents there too. So like, you know how you got the cutter and you've got the base of the cutter, which is essentially the body, but they change the fins, they change the things on the roof rack. That's also leading to a modular system, because if the whole ship is loading the same body and then you just adding on these little extra bits on the outside, you can see how it essentially improves performance. So I think they are very evidently moving towards a modular system. They just haven't implemented it yet. And I think because of the way they're doing ships now, like look at all the variants we're seeing, where essentially the base body's the same and they add little bits on the outside. I think that is a real credence to where they're heading. We're seeing a lot of ships that come out, or even going back to older ships, like what they did with the Saber Ravens. That's a tip of that as well. You can load the core piece that is the same, so it saves memory, and then just add little bits on the outside so they all look different. It makes a lot of sense to me that they're moving more towards modularity rather than away from it.
And do you see that as them building those ships as modular ships, or still seeing them as variants of a ship? So they
can do both.
I know you're talking like in terms of development, you're talking a modular system.
Yeah.
But in terms of the game, like the Ravens, you're seeing them as almost modular in a sense, but they're seen as variants in game. And
it's what they want for gameplay needs. It's never changed. So that's why we see ships that are quite flexible, but they're a bit more jack of all trades, right? But then we also seen ones that go way more niche. And it's like they told us that you were there at that conversation. Variants are stronger and more focused than a modular ship is. You were there.
And that was something we've always said. It was nothing. You know,
nothing new to me and you, but it was great to have. That's what all CitizenCon was for me and you. All this shit being confirmed that we'd kind of worked out through speculation and talking. It was very good to learn that we were right on a lot of that stuff that we'd done. But it wasn't about saying, "Oh, we told you so," or anything. It was just confirmation was great, you know.
But there was very little that really got us. So a lot of answers, lots of covering what we'd said or speculated on. Even talking to John and Ben, probably the biggest thing was that 18-month process that they go through.
Bowler in chat has absolutely nailed what we're trying to say. Yes, the Galaxy is an example because it's only got one modular room, and to that effect, I think that's why the Galaxy does only have one modular room, because they knew they could bring it out quickly and get it into the game without the modular system needing to be there. So essentially, you'd have a cargo variant, the base variant that had no room in it. They did talk about that. Then they'd have the medical room that was preset, and then they'd have the refinery. Done. Right, because all the other stuff was mentioned for later, because like the manufacturing room wasn't needed or any of that, because they said that was all going to be later. But again, that is really 4 variants. Yeah, absolutely nailed it, Bowler. That's a really good example to kind of prove our point. Thank you.
And as Monster AV comes in and tacks onto that, when you look at the medical module for the Galaxy, everything was set. You couldn't change the beds around. That's the layout.
See, that would have been really, really cool. But let's be honest, it would have totally crushed the reason for the Apollo to exist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so setting that established thing, we just swap out the room. So yeah. Und Son Schlocken, Father and Son Gaming.
Wait, hang on. So Carsten's saying you can move the beds in the Galaxy. To my memory, they were fixed. You had one tier 1, 2 tier 2s, and 3 tier 3s, and they could not move or be changed. So Carsten, I think because we're not going to do it live, I want you to go look that up. But I'm pretty sure, Carsten, you are wrong, and they are fixed, bro. And I don't want to call you wrong or whatever, but go check it and come back to us. But I'm pretty sure they are fixed, and I'm like. Bowler's saying it, Algared's saying it, Lemming's saying it, I'm saying it. So that's something that you need to go check. But I'm pretty sure they're fixed.
I think you may be, Carsten, mixing up with the Apollo, because you've got 2 rooms. And that is certainly because Carsten says you have 2 rooms, and that's the Apollo. The Apollo is the only one with 2 rooms where you've got the thing, and that is correct. But the
I'm pretty sure it's
were fixed in my memory.
So I can't read who it is, but somebody in red typed on Twitch
Monster Avery
that it's 6 variants. I'm pretty sure it's 8.
Yeah, 1112. Yeah, but the other thing that you're not accounting for is, so for example, in the pattern you've given Monster Avery, you're also not accounting for 2-1.
Yep.
Because they're on the opposite side of the ship.
And
that's the extra numbers.
And while that doesn't impact gameplay, in terms of building the ship,
it does.
It accounts for it, and that's that kind of dev ship build, or in the files and stuff they've got to have combined with what we're doing. So
yeah, you'd have to add 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 to your math. So it looks like it's going to be about 9 or But the point still stands. It's a lot, right? And that's what we're trying to show you. It's not as simple. It's a development thing, and I'm not going to sit here and essentially.
But I think that's where Galaxy's single room, the room is the set, and you just click it in, works. And Carsten said, "Yeah, sorry, I thought it was the same, but his mistake." Yep.
Yeah. So from what I can see here, they're all fixed. It does not mention anything, but I swear somewhere it actually says that it might have been the Q&A, right? But I don't have time to go back through it now. But cool, Kirsten. I'm sure you'll find it. But again, like when we saw this, it's like, oh well, you just get everything. Why would you want modular when you get you essentially get 1 room of everything? It's essentially the Apollo only gets 2 and it's got to choose. This gets 3, so you just get everything.
Yep.
You know.
But then even as we said at the time, the advantage of the Apollo over the Galaxies, you could have 2 tier 1 beds, which means you can take 2 of it. Yeah. The main, the most serious, or you could have 4 of the tier 2, or you could have 6 of the lower tier. So you could actually do mass rather than minimal. So that choice would matter.
Just remembering when we were talking about this lift, and you, Paul, and myself really did kind of talk about the medical Ursa there, and that wasn't a thing back there, so I'm just remembering that now. But
Yep. The lift. Why do we have a lift for a medical Ursa?
So obvious now looking back, but like at the time it was like, I wonder.
Yeah, indeed. Father and Son Gaming says digital CitizenCon this year, big in-person CitizenCon with the release of Squadron 42. Do you think it will be in Manchester? Yes,
100%.
We've been told numerous times.
Yeah, the other thing that was really obvious, if you haven't kind of worked this out, and I'll do it in a really simple way. Why did the LA studio close? Because nobody was there anymore. They all moved to Manchester. So if they're trying to move everyone to Manchester, and there's now a digital one this year, what is that telling you? Most people are moving to Manchester. They're not going to be moving the CitizenCons around as much anymore. Right, so essentially they're either going to be in Manchester most of the time, if not all of the time, and maybe they'll do a digital one every now and then, right? Because they're busy or whatever. But I think, sadly, going forward, most of the CitizenCons are going to be in Manchester. Yes, they may do one in Montreal or Frankfurt, but again, why would you do that? You got to think it from a monetary perspective, not what you want or what I want, but think about what CIG wants, right? They have, say you have 80% of your developers. I don't know what the percentage is, right? But the vast majority are there. You bring the others to them, not the other way around.
Yep.
And back in the day, there was a lot in LA and a lot in Austin. Now it's gone way down. People like Dave Haddock now live in England. Disco himself lives in England. They have moved so many people there that it's now expensive to go the other way. So to bring everyone from there to Montreal, that doesn't work. It's too expensive. But to take the whole of Montreal, the key people from Montreal, like Benoit and stuff like that, and fly them to Manchester, that's heaps cheaper. And not only that, they've got the whole video designed, like all Disco's people are in Manchester. you know, a lot of this, not all the community members are, but they do have some community members there. And if they're in Manchester and they build that rapport with that terrible centre, and eventually they can keep working with them and drum it really into them that they need to fix a lot of the shit there at that centre.
Because that centre is disgusting.
Yeah,
yes.
They'll improve over time and basically build that rapport where every year that becomes a thing. And I think little things like the whole thing with the statue, not the statue, what do you call it? The horn at Algared, where they were
outside their office.
Yeah, that they told the people at Manchester City that they were building it, and they essentially said, we want that, and we're going to put it in they're going to work out how to put it in a box or whatever, and it's going to be permanently on display in Manchester outside on the road near the offices of CIG. So they're going to have a permanent hornet sitting there on the road, well, not on the road, but off to the side of the road. And I just thought that was really cool.
The city is really, really keen to do that. Now, just talking in terms of jobs.
So what I mean, so what I'm saying is, if they're fully investing, that shows me that CIG is fully investing in Manchester. Sorry.
Yep. So just to try and illustrate that point, I just had a look at I thought, I'll have a look at the staffing. Couldn't actually look at the staffing and the numbers at each studio, but the number of positions available. There are 3 positions available in Austin.
Yep.
There are 4 positions available in Montreal. There are only 4 positions available in Frankfurt. There are 41 positions available in Manchester. That just really focuses in where they're wanting the main staff to be. And it ties in with that idea of that face-to-face. They tried the decentralized approach. COVID showed them it didn't really work, and being a centralized really actually helped with the gameplay development. And because they all work together, they could get past all of the COVID restrictions too, and just work at the same place. I do want to ask, because I did have someone at CIG reach out to me because of my former development background. They are very much looking for people that are into AI programming at the moment. So if you know anyone that is into AI programming and would like a job at CIG, please reach out to me and I can connect you to people at CIG and probably get you an interview, because they are very much looking for AI programmers right now. If they're reaching out to me, they've got to be struggling. So they are definitely after AI people. It's time for the next great NPC, next great mission giver. Get your AI, do a comp where you've got to develop your AI characters.
Fortunately, Algared, there's not to shoot you down, but there's not a lot of AI in NPCs. They just stand there and talk.
True. Yes. It's actually everything else that.
Yeah. It's all the other stuff.
I was just trying to think of a way in which you'd do the AI talk, because I know it's everything else, but yeah.
Yeah. But if they're looking for like dedicated programmers, that shows me also they're not just in Star System, that might also have squadron connotations as well. So if they're looking for programmers, they're really serious about AI at the moment. That's going to have awesome connotations to us, but they obviously are short a few people. So anyone that you know, I reached out to a few of my friends. And my response was, they wouldn't pay me enough. And I said, and I literally replied that to the person I know at CG, and they said, how much do they want? Like, I was like, wow, they are desperate. And he just said, you couldn't pay me enough. He just said, I don't like working in the game industry anymore. And I was like, okay, fine. I just left it at that. And but like that almost sounded like CIG were prepared to write a blank check type of thing. So that also showed me they are really actively looking, so that they you know, if you know anyone, put the word out, and maybe your mate can be working at CIG. And the other thing I will say, if they live in another country, they were prepared to pay for people to move. So that also is a big telling sign that they are, I don't want to use the word desperate, but they are really struggling is what I'd probably say to find someone. But yeah.
And if you look at the Cloud Imperium website and go to Manchester, you can see there are jobs for the AI programmers.
Yep.
Wonder if there's jobs for that at the other set studios as well. Let's have a look. Austin.
Yeah. All right. Well, while you do that, I'll go on to the next question.
So Austin doesn't have one. Frankfurt has an AI programmer position available as well.
Yeah.
As does. When Manchester's got them, and does Montreal have them? And so Manchester and Frankfurt have positions for their AI programmers. So
and they're so close to each other, though. You know, like you're talking a couple of hours by train type of thing. You know, Brian Chambers was at CitizenCon. That's nothing when you're close like that. But literally getting on a plane is quite different. And again, if you can put everyone that's at Frankfurt on a train, that's way cheaper than putting people on a plane. And also, if it's only 2 hours, you could technically go home in the evening.
Although, X, I do think that you're picking up the tyranny of distance. We don't think of a 3-hour car trip to somewhere. But they think that's massive.
Yeah. We're used to traveling vast distances, that's for sure.
So, you know.
Yeah, that's a crazy comment to say that 3 hours is a short distance. I just drove 3 hours a couple weekends ago and hated every freaking moment of it. So.
I had a friend that worked in Melbourne, Victoria, here in Australia, and he was a game developer, and he had to travel 2.5 hours home every day. So in the morning, he would get up and he would go to work. He'd leave work. I think he left home at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he'd arrive at work at 9:30, and then he would finish work at 5:30. He would then get on a train and go home, and he'd be home by 8:30 or 8 o'clock. And then he would have his dinner, go to bed, get up and do it all again. And and this went on for like 3 years. I said, dude, you got to move or something. That's insane.
Got to move or leave your job, but that's insane.
Yeah.
I've got colleagues who do the same. They'll get up. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to work.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
At least if they go by public transport, they can actually do stuff on the train. But
that's what he did. Yeah, but 2.5 hours is the longest I've heard of in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So.
It is. It's an insane travel. But, you know, like every year a friend and I usually go to CanCon. We go in the morning, 3-hour drive. We come back in the evening, 3-hour drive, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
Dirk Finner 84 says, do you think Elaine Ward, the Kovalex investigation minute, could be turned into a mission giver or lead you into a mission giver? They talked about investigation missions at CitizenCon a few years back.
Yes.
I think the opposite, because she's a one-off mission and the husband of someone. But I do think she could lead you into a mission giver for sure.
I was thinking, you know, as a result of her, you get a mission giver from a detective agency. Hey, you did really well there. Yeah, we'd like to. Or, hey, we're investigating Kovalex for other issues. Can you?
She could also be a mission given to you by someone else. Hey, I need you to go help this friend of mine. And she goes, you know, and then passes you off to Elaine. I think Elaine would more likely, if they update it now, she would be like if you open your Moby Glass or you're on your ship MFD, should be a video that appear like a video message essentially. Yeah. Yep.
And I could even, as you said, you know, you could see that being a mission giver employs you to start. Yeah, hey, I'll give you some jobs as detective agency stuff. But we need to investigate this. Here's your first assignment, and you get a video call from Elaine saying, yep, you know, or a video recording from Elaine telling you that stuff.
Yeah, the only way it'd be like a mission giver herself is if it was some kind of chain, and I just obviously can't see the connection to it her having more missions after, because she's stressing about her husband. Unless, what was his name, Darian or something like that, unless he was in a series of things before or after that, I just can't see her being the mission giver herself, but definitely a part of a chain from a mission giver. Yeah,
I could see them doing I could see an advocacy rep employing you to do stuff, so you're not part of the advocacy, but they're parceling out jobs for freelancers. I could see that. But yeah, would I like to see? Do I want to see more mission givers and more missions like that? Absolutely, because that was a really good mission. When you consider how old it is, it's still fun to do.
Yeah. Volta or Father and Son Gaming says, back in the days we brought a physical package like the kernel package and the deluxe green collector's box. It was intended to be a joint collector's box for Star Citizen Squadron 42. Do you think we'll get this box next year? I think the only thing we can kind of say, and I can't remember if we were allowed to talk about this or not, so stop me if I say something wrong, Algared, but that physical goods would come after release is what I remember.
I vaguely remember that, and I also vaguely remember even talk about wanting to move away from physical goods, and that's something we've seen for years in the digital packages.
Yeah.
But
they did say that they'll go back and do them. I think they at one point, Algared, they even did that kind of. Remember when it happened with you? They had the 2 days with Chris Roberts type of thing, and you could hand that in for other things. So maybe they might even ask people, "Hey, do you want to give up your physical goods for something else in return?"
Yeah.
Like maybe they'll give us part 3 of Squadron 42 if we hand in our physical goods, as an example.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's assuming, part 3 assumes that Squadron 42 is a rip-roaring success, which I absolutely hope it is, and expect it will be, because, man,
but it also means those physical goods will become even rarer, so people will want them even more.
Yep, indeed.
And I think with an older audience too, they will prefer the physical goods. I think there will be people that already own Star Citizen, but if they can go down to their local, it's EB Games here in Australia, but it's GameStop or Game in the UK, and get a physical copy. I think there are people that will do that just because it'll be one of the last physical games you're ever going to get. It is in that type of frame. It's a very much like you think yourself, Algared, and I'll put this off the chat as well. When was the last time you went and brought a physical game? I haven't done it in a really long time. In fact, the last ones I have a whole bunch of them up here on my wall. The last one I brought, actually, if I really think about it, was the expansion pack for Diablo 3. Right, the collector's editions Blizzard used to do, and most of the ones I've got up here, I will admit, are Blizzard titles. But yeah, they've really dropped in quality over the years. They're not the big fanfare they used to be. And now these days, when you get a collector's edition, they're just I think the Cyberpunk one's a good example. It was just a statue. If you're not tied to the character, why would you buy a statue? Like, you don't know anything about them yet. You haven't learned anything about them. It means nothing. So until it's a character that you love, you're not going to really invest in a collector's edition. So for us, it might be a little bit different because we know it's Mark Hamill, so we know it's based around a character. But you get where I'm going. The difference between a no-name character, if they'd done instead of doing the guy that's the main character, right? If they'd done Keanu Reeves' character, that would have sold heaps better, as an example. But anyway,
No, I could see and part of it, the thing with those boxes was that they're actually 4 designs. So the 4 different pictures, but when you put them together, actually gave you the whole symbol that the Star Citizen logo kind of show, because then you got the 4 ships in the corner. So they're actually 4 different boxes that went together. Give you a big box.
And I'll go search for that image and I won't be able to find it, but I did find it one day randomly.
Yeah, I remember once we were talking, you said, no, and I said, yeah, and you looked over, oh, wow. No, it was, for you, it was one of those moments where you went.
No, I remember that. No, I don't remember that.
You're remembering it different? Okay, well, there we go. Our memories are shot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Shinobi Trip, no, I haven't seen the teaser for RuneScape Dragon Wilds yet. Or if I have, I didn't realise it was RuneScape.
The requested page could not be found. Someone deleted it. I had a link to it and it's gone. Collector's edition boxes, and the picture's gone. Oh no, I found them. That's fake. But these 2 are definitely real. Ones I'm thinking of. So this is before they were boxes. And this one here is when the CIG staff were voting on them. So that's back when these were taken by Sandy, by the way. You'll remember this, Algared. So that was when she was making the like samples, and then this is when they were actual boxes. And the staff were voting on A, B, and C. I think they also got us to vote as a community from memory, and we picked the constellation. There was a couple other ships in there as well, but yeah.
But they actually, and the logo kind of went around, and when you got all 4 together, it got completed.
That was the other variant as well. I actually liked the one with all 4 of them, but I think even now you kind of look back, it'd be different again now. It's changed so much. wonder if this will actually, where's this going to take us? Oh, it takes us right. Yeah. Anyway, I think, I don't know, maybe they'll use that, or maybe we'll get a whole new different box. I would imagine the cover for Star Citizen, if I made it now, it'd almost be like a blue box with the stars on it and just the gold Star Citizen logo. I don't know if you agree with that, but that simple, elegant, it shows that it's about space. Yeah, that's how I'd do it. But how about you, Algared? Would you have a big flashy ship and almost like a Star Wars poster with, I guess that's more Squadron, yeah, with the, the Squadron 42 would be a bit like that, but Star Citizen, I think that's a bit different. How would you present it if you had to do what you wanted to do?
Well, I think I'd like the idea of 4 different boxes, giving the bigger logo behind, and even on that Constellation one, you could see the bottom corner go behind the Connie. You could actually see the logo showing up there.
I can't see the gentleman's name because I've got streamer mode on, but he did send them all to me. Thank you. His name starts with W. So I don't know who that is. I apologize because I've got streamer mode on and I can't see. But he did. He sent this one, and we've got one other one. But they are the 4, Algared, aren't they?
Yep. And you can see the Star Citizen logo in the corners.
Yeah.
Coming through.
And I really should save these. I keep losing them, so maybe we should. And they do come back up around now. So and here's the one with all 4. Yes. And yeah, I think that's the one that I would have picked. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah.
But the idea they were each.
Yeah.
As I understood it, they're the individual boxes.
Yeah.
A different style. And so if you got all 4 boxes, you would get.
Yeah. Wait, is that what it was? Hang on. I was going to say that. Why is it making that noise?
I don't know.
I want to go back. Oh, let me go back. Oh, yeah, you're right. You do. You that's a clever idea. Smash all 4 together. Oh, yeah, clever. So you actually had to buy all 4 versions. No, stuff that.
to get that. But,
yeah, but maybe
so I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe you could do that with Star Citizen and 3 episodes of Squadron.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
is that making people buy four copies of the game is a little silly.
Yeah, it is.
However, if you plan on releasing 4 games, then I mean it's almost silly to not do this.
Yeah.
Or release 4 boxes and you can buy the individual boxes if you really wanted. But yeah, so. But that was one of the things that I can remember, that the individual boxes, and if you got all 4, you actually got the complete thing with the logo. Whether CIG still go down that line is yet to be seen. But
all right, sorry, I'm just saving them.
But yeah,
really quickly. You want to go to the next question, please, sir?
Father and Son Gaming, did you notice that CIG changed the Blackbeard stealth skin to the Dread Pirate skin? I mean, I had both in my hangout, but now I have 2 Dread Pirate skins. No, I didn't notice that.
Wait, so could that be a bug?
No? Could be a bug, but it was a hanger item that he had. It's been changed. I will have a look in.
Yeah, because I don't have that item, so I can't check that. So what were the 2 items? One was a skin, and one was
they're both skins. One was the Blackbeard stealth skin, and one was the Dread Pirate skin.
I don't have any. I'd have to Google that to look it up. So yeah.
Yep.
That's an after the show type thing, I think. Because again, I don't quite know what I'm looking for.
No, but I do. I'll have a look.
Yep.
I'll see if I can.
If you find anything, just shoot me an image and we'll bring it up.
Yep.
So easy. I'll go on to the next question then. Why you do that, mate? So we are on to this. Mech Rider says, do you believe the Freelancer series are gonna be redesigned closer to Starlancer and Odyssey design? Secondary question: will we get a rotating thrusters? So the rotating thrusters thing on a lot of ships got changed, and they did show this off on an ISC because they couldn't rotate them quick enough. The example they gave at the time was the Cutlass. And so a lot of those got moved into VTOLs. I do think if they did it again on the Freelancer, it would be a VTOL thing. But as far as it stands right now, they removed them from the Freelancer. There's no reason though that they couldn't put it back in a variant change. I do think the major problem with the Freelancer is its interior, not really how it looks on the outside. I don't think it really needs a full rework. Algared and I have gone over this at length. In fact, Algared, maybe we should do a Freelancer review.
Again, yeah.
Well, Algared and I recorded an episode last weekend? Last week?
Last week.
And we both had issues with it. And we wanted to change it, but maybe we just change it and put that on the back burner and do a Freelancer one instead. I don't know. Well, you and I will talk about that later, because the Freelancer series could be a good one to do, actually. But we'll talk about that later. Because I've already got all the art done for the other one too. That's the other thing. But anyway, I'm getting off the topic. But yeah, Freelancer is definitely one of the original Kickstarter ships. I'm trying to think of things that Algared would say why he's working. But generally speaking, those older ships do need reworks, don't they, Algared?
Indeed.
So,
like you got the Aurora, the Freelancer, the Hornet. Hornet's been redone.
Yep.
Cutlass
was one of them.
The Cutlass, actually, it was. I'm just looking at the patches because
I know where you're looking.
At 5.
Yeah.
So you got the Aurora, the Constellation, the Hornet, the Freelancer, and the Origin 300i. The Cutlass wasn't one.
The Cutlass was
slightly after that.
Yeah, the Cutlass and the Caterpillar were announced during Kickstarter though. They weren't the original 5 though, so I still count them in that group because you can go back and look at the original copy. They look nothing like they do now. They actually look really cool. They had this remember they had that vertical thing, Algared, where they both kind of not vertical, but they flew like on an angled slant.
Yeah, they kind of flew kind of like an attack helicopter.
Yeah,
the images I get of that. So yeah.
They made them look much more aggressive.
They did. Mind you, I do think that Josh Coombs' version of the Cutlass did give it a very aggressive look.
So there's a couple of that. Hang on, and I got to do Caterpillar.
I've actually never seen the Caterpillar ones.
Yeah, I'll bring them up. They do exist. It's lost a lung. That's right. So I'm just trying to find.
I mean, that would just be silly if I didn't know everything about a Drake ship, right?
Oh, shut up.
Shut up.
Well, they're on the wiki, by the way. That's where I found them. They're actually on the original wiki. So here's one here. So this is you can kind of see there it flies at an angle. It's that one. You can see the other one. I wonder if I can open that one too. So they had 3 different concepts of it. Oh god, now I've lost it. Where did it go? There it is. Give me a second. I need to take a lozenge. I'm going to put my lungs out. And then the other one was the Caterpillar. So this is the one that you probably haven't seen before, Lemming.
Ooh.
And that looks very different.
Yeah. You
can still see similarities, but it is significantly different.
Definitely shorter. They and this is where the aggro come from about the scanners back in the day. You're trying to tell me that they're not guns? Look at how it even looks got a massive pivot joint on it and everything. Of course they're guns. They're not scanners.
Yep.
And then they made them. Yeah.
No, the cat got changed a lot, and it was part of the original design was that you could have it was like a centipede. You keep adding sections to it to make it into a long, massive thing. But
I'm sorry, but that looks so much better than what we have right now.
Well, what I'm thinking is if they actually now they have the module for the Caterpillar and the module for the Ironclad, why don't you go back and make a combat ship that is inspired by this original concept? So it's a shorter version of the Caterpillar, essentially, like a combat Caterpillar, but you change it from cargo to something else.
When Drake finally get a military contract.
Maybe something like
They
that.
have finally been commissioned to build a troop
Yeah.
transport or something like that, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, like
let's see what
almost
they
like
do with bigger.
a what do you call it? A sawn off shotgun? A sawn off caterpillar. They could literally call it the snort off. That'd be funny as, you know, like it's almost like a Russian snort off, you know, like a Smirkov or whatever you call it, you know, the drink, the
Yep.
snort off.
Snort
And
off
they would say,
vodka.
what the hell are you talking of? It's a snort off or sawn off shotgun. That'd be funny.
The vodka.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I call it a sawn off is they're usually named after weapons.
Yep.
You know, so I was just like, yes, sawn off. Or caterpillar shorn off.
Yep.
Anyway. Let me know what you guys think of that, because this is very old now. We're going way back to the beginning of the heyday.
That is even before that's pre-2014.
Yeah.
By 2014, the Caterpillar had its form that we're used to seeing.
Well,
so, yeah.
And then it got reworked again.
Yeah, it did.
So yeah, the Cutlass has had a lot of love chucked its way as they trying to figure out what Drake was. I think that was the real.
I think that was always part of their problem, working out how to make Drake work. Especially considering they're a very, very young company. Like we're talking in-game years, they're 140 odd years old.
Do not know how to say that guy's name, but he's a first-time chatter on Twitch. It's kind of like Greg Xiging. He's trying to first-time chatter. He just says Drake Blunderbuss. We do like to highlight first-time chatters here. So yeah, nice to see you, Grex. I'm just going to call you Grex. I think that's the easiest way to call it.
Yeah, Grex.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah.
Mech Rider has a question.
Yep.
I couldn't find the skins, by the way.
That's right. We'll have to have a look afterwards.
I'll have to have a deeper look.
Yeah.
Mech Rider, this Mech Rider says,
actually,
do you believe...
Actually, real quick, can you take screenshots of the two in your inventory and the old ones, Volta, and just message them to me or Algared? That would help us find stuff later, and we'll look into it for you. Yeah.
If you've still got them, yeah.
Yeah.
So this Mech Rider says, do you believe the Freelancer series... that's the one you've already done. So yes, we are going to get the Freelancer. I'd love to see those rotating thrusters on those ships again, same as on the... I think this is the way you pulled up the Drake. Ships, I'd love to see that. Seeing that old the Drake Caterpillar, you know, the Tango. That was... That, I'd love to see that. But I think if they don't do that, it's more a tech issue rather than anything else.
Yeah.
Carsten Christensen says, do you think we will see Perseus and Ironclad this year? Pioneer is not this year, I believe.
Yes, I do think we'll see the Ironclad and the Perseus this year. We've kind of talked to that effect a few times. I don't know. Algared, do you kind of agree with me? Ironclad more likely at Invictus and
given
Perseus
using the 18-month window type thing, yes, I could see the Ironclad being an Invictus.
Or do you think they'll also push the Ironclad back to kind of be CitizenCon or something like that? So they'll both come towards the later half of the year. What's your feeling? Well,
they can put it in an Invictus, and it would not be out of character for them. Right. Could they put it in? You know, does it mean they will? No. Can they put the Perseus and Ironclad together at IAE or CitizenCon? Yeah, they could. Especially if you see them as competing roles. But you know, if they feel that the gameplay is there for the Ironclad and it's ready, we'll bring it out.
So
I've got go ahead. I've got a question to ask Twitch after this. Sorry.
All right. So with the increased amount of ships coming out from CIG this year, as in a ship every month, do you think that a ship is going to come out? Do you think any's going to come off the backlog as just a, I don't know, ship for July?
Well, we kind of did that backlog thing, and they're being removed and added to. That was the thing we found. There was only about
Yeah.
29 on there, and as they're adding
Yeah.
ones, they're taking ones off. So it's this conveyor
And-
belt essentially. And
Yeah.
the only ones that don't get really removed were the ones all around 2015. You were there, weren't you? Didn't you do that episode with us?
Yes. Which is why I'm saying
Oh.
that. Saying, do you think any backlog ships are going to come off as just the July ship or the June ship?
Mm.
Well, generally, I'm going to say no, because the real big backlog ships we had were Endeavour, BMM, Javelin.
I actually looked into this. You know how we've been talking about the credence of one ship per month?
Mm.
We've actually had one ship per month since August last year.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost like only a couple of months, and we're at 12 months of ships, one per month.
Yep. Yeah, and if you look at the yellow curtain from last year, where basically these are the ships that are coming out this year, and then you look at the blue curtain, these are the ships that we're working on, and we've got a lot more coming besides that. You can see that they've increased that productivity scale. The ship pipeline's now more robust. They've got a greater library for the ships that they're working on, and I think the lack of a library is why companies like Kruger don't get much, because there's just so little for them to work with to build on, and some companies like Kruger don't really demand more. I want more, but even the law says that they don't need it. You know?
So I have a question to ask from the Twitch people, and I wouldn't normally do this, but I've been trying to figure it out on my own, and I can't, and I'm not a Twitch person, and I'm trying to find it, and maybe I can't. Here it is. Right. So here on Twitch, right, this is my own personal account, but I was also trying to do it for Inforunners too, and this is going to sound so dumb, but I was trying to get this banana thing. Right, so it says score. I literally went on Twitter and I shared the.
I can help you.
Yeah, so I shared the. So if you go on Twitter, there's literally sharing this for a badge post, because I was trying to get this banana to work and they won't give me the goddamn banana. So if you can help me, that'd be great. But like, it's driving me batshit. I can't get the banana. And little 90s is there on Twitch with his little banana just smiling at me, and I'm like, oh, you little son of a bitch. He's got.
Lemming says he can help you.
Yeah. So 90s multiple underscores has got the banana, and I'm trying to get the banana. I sound so dumb, but I want the banana. Anyway, rant over.
First world problems, I'll just say that.
Yeah.
So I suffer first world problems in one way, Execute faces them in another way. He's a skin man. He loves skins and little things like that. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, but Lemming will help you with that. Carsten Krog Christensen says, do you think we'll see the Perseus? Oh, that was the one we just did. Parker says, why not more ships with tractor beams, large or small? Then they could easily make an SRV light or go up in size. Use tractors for more cargo ships. Yes.
I do think we will see things to that effect. Like the pattern I'm seeing, and I think I've told you guys both this before, is essentially they realize that they probably can't make a lot of new stuff, but they can definitely go back and duplicate the gameplay that they've already got. Hence, we're getting the Golem, the Geo, and now you take that out and expand it out. I think one of the biggest targets that I brought up to you two was the Starfarer. We only have one ship that's got refueling, and that's an entire gameplay around one ship.
Indeed.
We need other refuelers. Like we need a small, a medium, and a capital. And by the same token, when they do things like the Expanse, you could even see a refueler. That's kind of essentially what the with the refining, but the Starfarer's got a much smaller refining. So kind of going the other way, where it's a refiner with a little bit of refueling. You see where I'm going with that, right? So there's a lot of options in there for gameplay. The Apollo, more medical gameplay coming down the pipe. I actually am starting to think one of the ships in the blue. Oh, it's not a ship; it's a vehicle. You know the Atlas platform vehicle in the silhouette. I am starting to think that could be a medical vehicle. So you've got the Nurser, I know, but that's more of a generalist. What if they had an armored for combat? essentially, you know, like a tier 3 combat vehicle. A lot of the military people say they always have this bigger back because you have to be able to stand up in it. And so because if you look in the image, it is quite high, but it doesn't really line up with the base builder variant that they showed of the MCV variant. So I'm thinking it could be that, and that makes a lot of sense with what we've already seen.
An armored medical vehicle. We've got an unarmored medical vehicle, unarmored vehicle. But we've got the Apollo and the Pisces, and then we've got the medical Terrapin, which is heavily armored. So there's a precedence for having an armored vehicle for medical. So yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So I was getting myself tongue-tied there.
But again, like where mining is at the moment, like they've kind of filled that all out now. Got a mech, we've got a vehicle. Like it doesn't mean they can't have more, because they're obviously going to start to possibly do double ups. You know, like we've got the Golem, we've got the Prospector, we've got the Fortune and the Vulture that almost seem to be right on top of each other. But also we know that they're doing an RSI salvager because we saw the concept stuff. You see where I'm going with this, right? So over the next couple of years, I think they've just gone, well, instead of just doing one in every slot, we could do some of the double ups now because we've got that bigger ship team and we don't really have the coders that can switch over yet. So we'll do what we can do now.
We've got the gameplay. We've got the gameplay already there for salvage and mining, etc. So why not we flesh out and build out those lines? Because we've always said we will eventually build out. So
and when you see a new gameplay come online, you'd always see a new ship come with it. But maybe now we might see a few more in rapid succession. So when scanning comes online, we know that was talked about in the monthly report. You know, you got the Terrapin, you got the Scout. But what's in between the Terrapin and the Scout, or above the Scout? The RN, the Cyclone RN. You see where I'm going with this, right? Could we get a scouting mech with a giant, you know, radar and communication suite, like a Hermes? You know, is a messenger Titan suit where he a communications one type of thing. Command and control
communications mech, so you can go down and target, highlight or
a big laser painter, or something like that.
A laser painter, so you can target for the orbital bombardment and all the rest
of it. Or mortar strikes or whatever as well.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of things in here. You can start to see the gameplay they have: salvage, mining, medical, combat. Same with the Titan suits when they come in. That's why we're all waiting for the combat Titan suit, because combat's the first thing they had. The fact that it's not the first Titan suit is really obvious, because we know they like to sell from worst to best if they've got things. I would imagine we'll probably get a salvage Titan suit before we get a combat Titan suit. I think you'd agree with that. And possibly a medical one, because the combat will be the last of the gameplays we already have.
And so for Pete, we'd say Titan.
Yeah, Titan. It's a Titan suit, Pete.
It's a Titan.
Yeah, Titan.
Right, that's for Pete.
Yeah. And what's the other one you could throw in there? You could also possibly put a repair one in there.
Yeah.
And maybe even a base building one.
Yeah, well, either of those, like at the moment we've got the repair gun, you can turn your
well, they'd kind of be the same
into that,
wouldn't they?
But
because you'd just be doing the painting thing.
But you'd have the pack, so you'd actually be able to carry more and do more and lift more. So yeah, I could see it. Yeah.
My hope with the Titan suits is eventually, when they're all done, when we get them into the game, not like a purchasing thing, that you can take off the backpack, take off the hand, and essentially have one Titan suit that can be, well, again, with the Argo ones at least, they're a lot more modular, right? And then I think we'll see several combat variants, like more like light, medium, and heavy, where the Argo ones are more utilitarian, so they only really need the one frame that has all the different parts that go on it. But where the military ones would be a lot more bespoke and tailored to a very specific role. So, the ones that we talked about was like a scouting one that can jump and run really fast, and maybe it's got a sniper rifle and it does a lot of communication stuff because it's scouting, and then you could also have the heavy tank-like one that literally has like a massive gun that comes over and and fires and stuff like that, or even maybe it does a mortar or something like that. And then you've got the little medium ones that are somewhere in the middle. And again, being combat, you know as well as I do, you tend to get, well, look at Drake. They've been trying to do military contracts for ages, so different tech levels and different manufacturers. So I think you'll get a lot more combat ones and a far less utilitarian ones. But I do think with Argo coming in, they are the minimum tech. So if we have an Atlas Argo Atlas platform, I would expect a low tech platform and a high tech platform. My brain goes to MISC for the high tech. I think Crusader or Drake for the low, but I don't want everything to be Drake, by the way. I think we need another lower end.
I think Argo is that. I think Argo is the lower end.
I think Argo is the middle. I think they are right in the middle.
Okay.
They are not. Think about the complexity of how the engines rotate on some of the Argo ships, the raft, all that. Look, you think through the complexity of all their ships, and they are too complicated for the low end of Drake. I think we need another Drake, not just the one. Like we need like another no frills, but it's Drake just does all of it. And I'm not trying to have a go at Drake, but I don't want them to be just the low budget one on their own. I think we need another one down there, because realistically, look at the real world. Are there more high-end products or more low-end products? Let's be honest,
I could see
there's a lot more clones down the bottom end, and at the moment, Sus's is the opposite, where we've got lots of highs, lots of mediums, but just the one low. Unless I'm not seeing it.
Argo, not Argo, Kruger fitting into the low end, because they make precision parts.
Doesn't that sound high end to you though, when they're high precision parts?
Well, they make
and again, the Nubian look they've got is really high end artisan.
Yeah, it is high, right? It is kind of that throwback, but when you look at what they do, they make the precision parts for everyone else. They don't tend to make the ships or the guns. They've only made one ship weapon. And they've only made one ship so far, right? And that's because, hey, we make all the bits, we can put the ship together. So they don't need to have like the high level of hover tech. It's mechanical tech, that it's precision parts that they will work perfectly all the time.
I think the only other one I can really see is Crusader, because they kind of make their that whole thing about goodwill and no frills, and the interiors are fairly Spartan compared to other ships, you know, they like the white walls and stuff. So I would say Crusader's the only one I can really think of. But again, they also have some interesting things that kind of break them out of that simplistic mold. So I think Drake is definitely at the bottom. I'm just trying to think of Crusader's the only one I can think that would be at least one step up. But I'd like to see something else down there, not just Drake on their own. But again, that seems to be how they're working out the universe. It's Drake against the world type of thing.
Yeah, well, you know, Drake are
how many low end? Okay, so Carsten's saying X. I would say more high end, high end and low end car makers. Oh wait, X. I would say more high end. How many low end car makers can you mention? Well, a lot of them were low end. Look at Toyota, and a lot of the Japanese ones that came out in the 80s and 90s were a lot more low end, and they were taking on the European car manufacturers. And I think, yes, over time they've all risen up in quality, but you got to think about when they started out. And I'm not a car guy, man. I wish my brother was here. He could talk about cars till the cows come home.
Consolidated Outlander, someone says they could. And they're hard, because to me,
that's a good
Consolidated though. Try to get up the Elon Musk type.
Yeah, they seem a bit more high end, because again, you look at that the concept stuff for the Pioneer, the way those pods come down, they all kind of fold out. It's very Apple-esque or Elon-esque or Tesla-esque. I would say that they are definitely more high end as well. It's really, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can start to see what I'm.
The question is, with Elon Musk having such a nasty rep at the moment, will we see Consolidated Outland kind of drift away from that Tesla-esque feel and go in a slightly different direction?
I think they're standing enough alone that they will just stop associating with Tesla if that's the problem. But like, to be honest, I think they kind of took that and ran with it, but I don't think they need to be beholden to that. That's a bit too political for my taste.
Something they did. I think that was more just picking up what was the flavour of the day and just
Grey Cat
having a bit of fun with it.
Grey Cat, would they be
mining?
Are they a bit more low end Algared? You know more about that than I'll put that up to you. Rock, it's more dirty industrial. We haven't seen anything super high end from Grey Cat. I guess the Cygnus miner, but again, it's all mining stuff.
It's all mining stuff.
Maybe Grey Cat
for mining.
Maybe Grey Cat could be one of them. I haven't really thought about it, a Grey Cat in that way. I have to. Yeah, it's tough. I think you guys, Lemming. Sorry, it sounds like you want to say something.
No, I was going to say I look at Grey Cat as purely industrial, not high end, not low end, just getting the job done.
Yeah, and I think that fits. They're
no frills.
They're no frills. It's just get the job done. Although Grey Cat in their designs are over-engineered because the guy who did a lot of their designs, he'd been in a mine. His designs had actually caused people to get killed, and he was never again, basically, not on his watch will people get killed because of his stuff. So.
Are you hearing
he developed
weird voice from Algared? He's gone slightly robotic. Are you hearing that, Lemming, or is it just me?
I can't hear it.
You're probably hearing a lawnmower type thing outside as well.
It's the sound cancelling. Yeah, okay. I was like, it sounds like he's soaking through a fan.
No. It's the lawnmower outside.
Okay.
That I have no control over.
So for the rest of the world, what on earth did you just say, Algared?
A lawnmower, what do you guys call them in the States? What do you call how do you mow your lawn?
How do you cut your grass?
A lawnmower. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that at all. I don't know if anybody else didn't either.
So there's a lawnmower outside and it's making the noise, and Algared's computer is cancelling that noise, but it's making him sound funny. That's essentially where the noise is coming.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I pick up on these things because me and Algared hear each other. So, and he's already pointed out to me this episode that I was sounding weird at one point. So it goes both ways.
And I think it must have been a little bit because you actually.
I had the aircon on.
And then it disappeared completely. I don't know whether the audience could hear it. But yeah.
Also, the sounds we hear on Discord don't always translate to the show because we have filters on. So though I'm hearing Algared distorted, you guys most likely didn't because I ran that through a noise cancellation thing as well. So it might even tune it out completely. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same with your AC as well. I will hear it. And so, I just sent him a message saying, it's a bit loud at the moment. And it was just in case it was popping the systems, because normally it's there and it's not as loud. So So anyway, I must have been butchering Carsten's name because he said in chat earlier, just call me Carsten.
Yeah.
Waringo's Waring Pro says, do you see PDCs being retroactively added to existing ships? Much of a charging of a light fighter community, PDCs are preventing solo pilots from killing big ships.
Yeah, so I saw some posts about people still complaining about. There was a post on Spectrum, and it showed up on Reddit, and they couldn't believe what they were reading on Reddit, that this person was in a Hornet, and he expected to be able to take on a Polaris on his own. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like. So these people have been cream of the crop for so long that now they're actually implementing what was promised about bigger ships and all that type of thing. I think they've gone a little bit too crazy when they think that a Polaris should be able to be equal with a Hornet. Like, that's just... Now, I know I'm not talking to anyone here that's insane, but like, is this person reading what he's writing? Like, that it's... I'm not wrong, right? Like it's so obviously wrong. Why would you write that?
Because so many people have main character a syndrome where they think that they're the only one playing the game.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to do everything.
Yeah, unfortunate but true. I think you're right in that one. But I just can't understand how some people don't read what they're writing. It just kind of freaks me out a little bit there. Yeah. Right.
I've just seen. I'm going to jump a couple of questions down because I think this was an interesting one. Father and Son Gaming picked up in reference to when we see or think the Apollo will come. He was talking about the Apollo. It reminds me of the minigame Astromedics. To unlock the Apollo in the store back in the day, you had to play the game.
Yeah.
And that was in homage to Chris Roberts' game, first game he wrote. And it's 42 years this month since that game was released. So could that be an indication that they'll try and push the Apollo for this year?
Still said it was going in a white box, but yeah. Again, it was on the blue silhouette, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's coming out this year.
Or this month.
Yeah, it started in the next 18 months.
Yeah.
It's
the same thing for the Ironclad. Like, we are hopeful for the Ironclad coming out because of how it was mentioned in 18 months. But just because it's finished, we've also seen things like the 400i sat there. We heard reports of it sitting there for like 18 months before it was released.
Yeah.
So.
Now, do I like the idea of the Apollo coming out this year just to fit in with that? Look, I'm sure there's some people at CIG who would be looking at it and going, "Yeah, it'd be great. Let's get it out," because they tied it in with that game and it's 42 years and Squadron 42. You know, it's all those little things that we're going, yeah, but doesn't mean they can, and that's the question. But I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I actually think in that monthly report, I think one of the variants could be an Apollo variant. It makes a lot of sense to me. You've got those modular rooms. You just swap those rooms to something else and completely different ship. It just makes a lot of sense, and just add a few things on the outside. We know that they have a little bit of extra armor and some extra missiles. Combat variant, anyone? And even yourself, Algared, you mentioned yourself, I want a constellation that's like that. Like you've said words to that effect, yeah?
Oh, I've said it. So, I see the Apollo as a cut down Connie. It's you can see that language relationship. We also know that
essentially the cargo base pretty much cut off it. That's not exactly that, but it's a little bit like that, isn't it? You cut the cargo bay and you get that.
You've cut the cargo bay in half and chop off to the engines, and you've basically got the Apollo more or less.
If the Connie is the Enterprise, it would be Voyager. Anyway, go ahead.
The other ship that we could see a variation of, which we've touted, is a variant of the Mantis, which
true.
We know that a heavy fighter coming of that as well. So, or they've hinted that the heavy fighter's coming. That's true. Rather than
that's true.
So that could be another.
Well,
because we haven't had.
Well, let's put that to chat then. Is the Mantis a popular ship? I would say a popular ship. I would say it's not. I don't see them in game very often. The only time I see them is when a pirate kind of uses it, and I just don't think they're that common to most people. It's not a ship I see every day.
I wouldn't see it as a common ship. I'd see it as a popular ship in terms of look and style and image.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
It was a really cool looking ship.
Yeah, but yeah, just in chat, one for popular. And remember, you might like Spike just said, I don't like it, but I don't care if you like it or not. I just want to know, do you see the Mantis as popular or unpopular? And I kind of agree on the look thing, Algared, but I still don't see it as I don't think it's sold a lot is what I think their term for popular is how well did it sell.
Yeah, and there you go. Someone's saying popular design, but not a popular vehicle, not a very but very niche.
Just Riot is the only one that put a 1 in chat. Yeah, so I think no, it's not a popular ship. Yeah, popular AF. It is not. Right, it is unpopular AF.
But does it look? Is it a popular design or a popular look? Absolutely, but has that translated into ships? I don't think so.
Yeah. Where the Apollo, I think, has talked about a lot more. But again, they just say a popular ship. That's like saying half our ships, it could be.
Yeah.
Like it's just very vague.
Yeah. And what they consider popular could be totally different to what we think is popular. So
Citizen Ninja nailed it. One for looks, 2 for ownership.
Yep.
Absolutely agree with that. Yeah,
100% agree.
Yeah.
And if they go, hey, the look was really popular. Let's put one that's going to sell. Then
The Mech Rider asked the question: Corsair variants. It's very popular. Yeah, absolutely, that could be a thing. There's so many ships there. Like, man, a Vanguard was a really. It was the big back when the Vanguard came out. Like, I think it was the year after it had been concepted. They did a vote, and it literally went. I think it was Aurora, Avenger. But the Vanguard was like in the top 3, wasn't it? It was for its
one of the most
time.
popular.
It was the most popular, and I'd say that is not the case now, because of how it came out with the nose guns. But you go ahead, Lemmy.
Shinobi Trip. Are we finally getting the Gladiator variant?
Hang on, Lemmy. Go ahead.
So the Vanguard actually has a pretty funny popularity curve to it. At the beginning of a couple years now, the Vanguard's gotten very, 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 very popular.
Yeah, with the
and then I think that it has a chance for Best in Show. And then it seems like every single year, right around Invictus, they do something that just destroys the Vanguard's popularity. And then by the time that Best in Show rolls around, everybody's forgotten about the Vanguard that they loved just a few months ago.
I think the other problem with the Best in Show stuff, though, or the Ship Showdown, is they always want like art submissions for people, and not everyone's artistically talented or got time to even go into Photoshop and do stuff like that. So it should just be a vote. You should just put up every single ship and go, this is the first round of voting, and everyone just submits a vote, and you only get one vote, and you literally just, it is a giant drop down, and you pick the one ship that you want to be in there. That is it. And all the ones that get the top votes, they get slotted into the top 16. That would be the fairest way to do it. Not this, hey, I made spaghetti out of my 890 jump or whatever they do, and or my pumpkin carving. Like, they did some weird ass things like over the years, and again, it's always the same ships, and I don't mean that as in it's always the same people that come out of the woodwork, because let's be honest, they all pick a ship that they own. Whether it's, and we know the usual candidates, the Carrack, 600i, Mercury Stunner for a long time. I think they're the top 3 though, weren't they? They were the top biggest 3 problem ships. Lemming, I'm talking to you as well. Is there any others that you can see in that?
Statistically speaking, I think the Gladius has made it in there practically every year.
But it never wins.
Right.
Yeah.
But it never wins because, people hate the light fighters. And I mean, I think like rightfully so. For this year, if I had to put a couple guesses, I would say that the Guardian's gonna perform well in Best in Show. Both in votes and in popularity. But the Polaris is just going to clean up.
You really reckon that? I'll believe when I see it, because it's such a big ship. Like, yes, we've seen it with the Carrack. I'll give you that. So I have a precedence to be wrong, but I just don't see so many people owning it. But then again, we also do know the Ship Showdown vote is mainly veteran people. It is this type of audience.
I've seen so many Polarises in game, and I haven't spent a whole lot of time in game.
This is true.
I would love to see the Gladiator get some love.
I don't think it did. I don't think I see a day go by that I don't see the Polaris. To be honest with you, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Even in the few times I got in last week, I saw, at least I went to a station and there was a Polaris.
I also think the other part of it is though, one person comes along and goes, this is the ship I own, this is my favorite. The ships that don't, that continue in the vote are only the ones that are in a good place. Like, we've never, I'm just thinking if I put my foot in it, like the Constellation, right?
The Constellation has made it to like the second round.
Right,
but it's never made it to
the final. That's what I'm saying though. But like it makes it in popularity, but it drops off on the vote because it's not in a good place. So people are like, it's undeserving. Bang. You know what I mean? And the Gladius is probably the same. Like it's a ship that's around, but not everyone owns it, and it's just not seen as, like, again, it was the same thing with the Origin ships last year, where they were put up against other things and got knocked down and stuff like that. We've seen it previous years as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough. Polaris is a loaner for those that have a Perseus. That's true. So a lot of people with Perseuses do have Polarises.
Yep, that's true.
I think the Kraken gets one as well, so it's probably a Kraken and Idris. Like Algared, you could probably talk to this more than me. I don't have an Idris. Is it a loaner for the Idris and the Javelin?
It is.
I haven't paid attention because you only get one loaner.
Yeah, they don't.
So
yeah,
so you don't get 50 million loaners if you've got 50 million ships that have the same ship.
Give me
you
a
just get one.
second. Yep.
I'm 99% sure that it's a loaner for the Kraken, for both variants of the Kraken, but for the Idris.
Yeah, here we go.
My guess is if it's a loaner for the Kraken, it's a loaner for the others.
Don't even need to talk about it. We can just look.
Yep.
So if I go Polaris, there you go. So Javelin, Kraken, and Perseus and Nautilus. So yeah, it's a loaner for all those boys. So yeah. Idris M.
All right, is Idris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
NP. Yeah, so it covers all 5 of those. So that's probably also why we're seeing a lot of Polarises in game. But do those people then vote for it because it's their loaner? Maybe they like it, maybe they don't. That could work for it or against it, to be honest with you.
Yep.
So yeah. Yeah, good call. Thank you for reminding me of that, guys. Multiple people have reminded me of that.
Yeah. Lots of people.
Oh, but it is really the belle of the ball. I mean, it's the one that's likely going to do very well.
Yeah, but do you want another sexually frustrated Polaris skin? Because let's be honest, we got purple 2 years in a row now. I don't know what color they're going to make this year, but like I'm going to be honest with you. We had some good best in show skins, like, and I know everyone's got different tastes. Like Algared might like green, and I like black and red.
Excuse me for a bit. I've got to disappear.
Yeah, no worries.
Back in a minute.
And you might like a different color lemming, but you see what I mean? Like, it's not. This is the other thing is, what I'm trying to say is, your tastes might not line up with a ship you like either. That's the thing that it annoys me. Like that year, the Redeemer missed out on the black and red skin. I would have loved to have got that black and red skin, but it didn't.
Yep.
Where I probably would have been my main skin I used on my Redeemer. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it doesn't always line up, and it's a bit of annoying. Yeah.
So I've said this the past couple of years. I think that the best in show skin should be made for all 16 ships that get into the bracket. And it's only free for the ships that actually get into the top 4.
Yep.
I think that would take away a lot of the Mimi vote.
Say that again.
So the skin is made for all 16 ships that get into the bracket.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, I like that.
And it's free for the top 4.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can get behind that. That makes sense. Do you know what I also would like? Is if you could, even if you don't own the ship, you could just buy the best in show skin at the AIE, and then they're never available again. And you can only buy one, right? So and it is locked to your account. So you can't just buy it and sell it to people later. But if you just happen to be there, you can buy it, and it'll encourage you to get that ship later, or you could have it in game, not just to use it to essentially go, hey, what's your favorite ships? Oh, here's your skins. Oh, by the way, we're going to monetarily wring the shit out of you for it. That's a bit low in my opinion.
Like, I mean, I have a very good chain to my Polaris. Right. My Polaris is very low. But I haven't applied my Polaris.
How low is it?
Because there's, I mean, considering it is on a normal LTI token, I think it's 180.
It's pretty damn good, man. You'd probably beat me if I took mine off the thing. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, it's a really good chain, but I'm not going to apply it unless I have to right now. Because there's nowhere you can go. It's 950. if you're not happy with it, if some other ship comes out that catches your eye, and I was like, damn, I like that so much more than the Polaris. But if it wins Best in Show, I'm probably gonna apply it, even though I love the ship, but I just like to keep my options open.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. Let's go to our next question. From Shinobi Trip. Nope. Mark G. Sorry. He says, "Do you feel that with all the new ship creators on staff, that they are creating new player ships to get people on board?" I think we talked about this a little bit before, but basically, they are filling out the gameplay that they have. I think the Golem is very much a part of that, but it just happens to be tailored at starters. I think the next starter we'll probably see will be Intrepid variants. Lemming, is there anything you would like to add to that?
I called Intrepid variants last year. I don't know if I'm still in that school of thought, because I don't think it was as popular as they thought it was going to be. Like the cutter was very popular. You saw a lot of cutters flying around. I haven't seen an Intrepid at all.
But we learned from when they made the cutter that they already had the variants ready to go. So I think they've already done the legwork on the Intrepid variants.
Okay.
I think that they...
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's essentially, you got to look at it as in a variant. So it's a lot less work to get two Intrepid variants than it would be to make a ship from scratch.
And if they've already got them, then you just bring them out. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think it matters when they were done. I think, I really think that, and I think we said this during AIE last year, is that there was some point at CIG that they were like, this thing is not selling. We have to pull out something here, and that's a black paint to get this thing to sell. I mean, Agreed. They know that everybody wants a black paint.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is they basically had that fluoro green one, and it was just like, ugh, you know. And then you're right, they poured out this really cool, sick-looking black-blue paint, and that I agree with you 100%. That was to get the numbers in, because everyone wants black. They are the most popular skins by a country mile. I would be really interested to see the data on the new Golem, considering the black skin was one of the cheapest, if it was not the most popular, you know. Yeah.
No, well, it makes sense. Like, if you're a white ship and on a black background, you stick out like a sore thumb. So you become an easy target for people to see. But if you're black on black, you it's almost like a stealth skin without being a stealth skin.
Yeah. I think you'll be surprised, by the way, the number of people that own Intrepids too. Like Spike says, I'm an Intrepid lover, and now I think about it, John Citizen's been using an Intrepid like all week this week, and he's been using an Intrepid quite a bit now. I think about it, and I do see Intrepids in game. Not as many cutters, right? But I do see them. You know.
Is that one of your favourite ships, the Intrepid? Is that one you take all the time?
No, I take the C1.
The C1.
But
see a lot of spirits.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see a lot of cutlasses. I see a lot of medium ships. Like, let's be honest, you're eventually going to see a lot more low-end ships over time. But I don't think that, like, we might not have liked the Intrepid as a veteran community. But again, just like the Golem, it wasn't really made for us. It was made for new people. And they're the people that would have brought it in droves. But by the same token, as Lemon kind of alluded to with the black skin being dropped, a lot of us veterans buy them as gifts. And that's probably why the numbers were down.
Yep. And
so I have an Intrepid now. I won it on Yacht Club.
Yeah.
I've used it a lot. So it's a good ship. It's just really ugly. Well, it's really ugly.
Well, I think a couple of things went against it, right? Like after I kind of sat there and analyzed it and see what people were complaining about, a lot of people didn't like the fact that it was not like center flown. Like it breaks the mold of the other Crusader ships. That annoyed them. So the center flown thing, and the fact that it essentially is very boxy. But if you kind of look at Crusader ships, that is there in the style. As the ship gets smaller or cheaper, or however you want to look at it, it has more and more angles. You can see the difference between. You can literally go from the Intrepid to the C1 to the Mercury Star Runner to the Hercules, and as you go up, it gets more and more curvy. And I think they have other links like that. They took the Mercury Night Runner skin, that really limited skin that everyone loved, and they released a version of that was akin to the C1, and they did the same thing for the Intrepid, that black and gold look. So they do know how well tied these are together. I think the only thing I can give people is it is not centrally aligned. But to be honest with you, to keep the size that thing would need to be, think about just how lopsided that would be if you had to redesign it. Because essentially you've got the corridor and you've got a room. What do you do? Just make it a room with no corridor? That's how they should have done it probably then. Now I think it in hindsight is just a room. And then at the back, you've got just 3 rooms. Little thing at the front, bedroom, but that means the door to get into the ship would be the bedroom. The other thing that we talked about, Algared, I remember now when we went through it, was the fire extinguisher in the hallway. That might be why they had the corridor, because then if you do have a fire in the engine room, you can save yourself. Because if it's just 3 rooms and they have a fire in the middle room and you're in the cockpit, how do you get through the fire to get to the engineering panel to put the fire out? You can't. You're dead.
And the other thing we've often found is that a corridor in those Crusader ships is also where they put components. So
So what we're saying in short is essentially it's a gameplay function where gameplay influenced the design of the ship, and it's not something they could get around. We did say words to that effect when we reviewed it. So unfortunately, it was limited to how it could be designed.
The thing that Citizen John says is it's a great daily driver, and that's it's a great A to B ship, and that's what I find a lot of people do use a lot of those small ships for.
It's quite zippy though too, like its bigger brethren. The whole Star Runner, the movement and the engine thing, it's quite speedy. I don't think it's like any real faster than any others, but when I was actually testing it in Pyro 2 initially, it's probably changed now, it had massive fuel amount. Like I could go almost the same distance in a Cutlass as I could as the Intrepid back then, and I know they've tweaked it since then, but that literally kind of does speak a little bit to where they were going, and I still hope it does have that higher fuel thing over the other starters.
It was one of the things I remember you really found it useful for going to Pyro was the Intrepid just gave you so much range and depth, and that was one of the things that made it stand out against all the other starter ships.
I think the only other one that kind of had that a bit was the Rambler, right? And I think you will get, every ship of every degree eventually, especially in the starter ships, they will be a lot more broader than almost any other ship. But like I said, like Lemming said, the very first thing, and I think one of the very first videos we did on the Intrepid, as I said, start thinking about variants. Because if this is shit, the variants are the ones that I'm interested in. And as time has gone on, I think the bounty hunting one's really hard to pass up, knowing that they were working on the Marky Mark around that time. I've heard other ones like a medical variant. I think that's probably a little bit, maybe not because of the CR, but I wouldn't rule it out though. And what was the other one? A bombing variant. Smaller bombs make a lot of sense, but the bombs that I'd probably think of or expect out of this would be more like the cluster bombs that come out of the A2. That's what I'd kind of expect from this. So it just comes past and drops 4 little bombs out of each door.
I could see a variant of that as a bomber, but I'd be looking at the size of bombs being the bombs that would go on a Gladiator. So
yes, that's exactly what I mean. So
that type of size. So
like again, I don't know what size that is, because essentially the bombs in the A1 are a size 5. These would be like 1s or 2s or something like that. And again, you've only really got 4 SCU, so you're talking about a 1 SCU bomb.
Yeah. So,
but that ship
but yeah,
is built that way, where it's got those two single. Well, they're almost 4 single SCU slots. You know, so you can see a bounty hunting pod slipping there, just like you could see Shepherd drones pushing in there for the medical one. And you could see the bombs. So I'm trying to think of, like, again, you can see it with the cargo as well. So it's things that slot in the back. Could you see a data running variant where you put server racks in there? Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh, 100%.
So you can see very quickly, looking at the other ships that Crusader do, and then pushing that down. Man, we again, just here in 2 minutes, we've thought of like 4 different variants, and they all work. Is there anything outside that? Who knows? But I am very intrigued to see where those variants go, because I think what I'm trying to get to, long story short, is I think the variants will redeem this ship more than what it is. And I do think over time, once people, like John said, like you said, like I've said, and a few people in chat, is once you get out and actually try the Intrepid, it's not as bad as people made it out to be. It's just that people have this aesthetic and this thing that it didn't meet their expectations visually more than anything else, I think is what it was.
Yeah. I know I groaned when I saw the corridor again. But for me, also seeing that that's where the components were actually made me go, okay, the corridor makes sense. Yeah. It's not this just endless corridor. It was, okay, this corridor makes sense because the components are there.
Even if you think about it from, like, if you remove the exterior of the ship and just think of the interior, right? And like I said, you could have had 3 rooms. If you start to think about how fires propagate and stuff like that, even on the most basic level, you'd rather have more ship than less. And so if you remove the thought of what the exterior looks like, you quickly go, yes, I would rather have this than not have it. I think we can kind of agree on that. And unfortunately, then the takeaway is the outside doesn't even matter, right? Like, and I know it, and I'm talking pure function here, not visuals. And unfortunately, that compromise had to be made, and they chose to make that compromise, and we just have to roll with it.
Function over form.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, Mark G had a question. I don't know if you did this while I was away, but he said, do you feel that with the new ship creators, staff creating new ships?
That was the question that kicked this all off. So, yeah.
But,
under Shinobi trip.
But I will also speak to that in terms of when I was at CitizenCon, one of the things I was doing as I was going to certainly the first Star Citizen, is that I was talking to people. I would say, how'd you get into Star Citizen? What are you doing at CIG? And when they would say on the ship team, I'd ask, what was your onboarding task? And the onboarding tasks were myriad. It was things like I was given the task of working on the control gear, the control stick of a ship. I was given this ship. I was given the landing gear. I was given this interior. A whole pile of different things they were given just to show their skill and ability. And it wasn't just a ship. Sometimes it was a component. Sometimes it was a gun. So that in a sense was a bit surprising, because up until that point I was thinking, you've been given an onboarding task of redesigning a ship or showing an interior of a ship or doing.
It also depends on what department they're going into. So if they're going into the prop team, they'd be doing props. If they're on the ship team, they would eventually do a full ship. So yeah. But
it was, people who were working on ships were doing controllers and gear stick, or not gear sticks, but the console used control ship or landing gear. It was varied, and that was probably the biggest surprise. And it was only about 2 or 3 people who said, I did this ship. So that was varied. So
Shinobi Trip says, is it fair possibility that Digital CitizenCon will be in the UK time zone this year? Absolutely. As we said, most of it'll be done from Manchester. Why would you spend all the extra money to do it from somewhere else when you've already got the whole team there? And when I say the whole team, I'm talking about the video production team. It just makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I think, unfortunately for US people, you are now getting the Australia treatment from CIG. Welcome to the club. There's a really cool Reddit called Ameristralis, or South South American Australis, where Americans and Australians can relate to each other on a daily basis. Highly recommend you go there. It's a great read. They're bitching about all the tariffs at the moment, but yeah.
So I think that it is more likely than not going to be slightly time adjusted. So like they'll start it at noon UK time rather than like 10 o'clock in the morning UK time.
That would make more sense. That would make more sense. I think again they are learning as well. But the only restriction that's better for a digital one. For a physical one, not so much, because again you've got to open and close when the center does. And it all comes down to cost at the end of the day. But yeah, with a digital one, you can delay it as much as you need to, don't you? Well, but again, if they're doing it live and stuff, that also, think about it, if they start at noon, they then have to pay people for overtime if they go to say 8 o'clock.
Oh, the other thing you've got.
Maybe they just give them the morning off. Say, hey, do you guys mind if we...
Right, exactly. Yeah.
The other option you can do with a digital one is you can have pre-recorded sessions at the time. So you can have a panel that goes up, and that pre-recorded panel you could have the live session, so you could actually stagger it. Have recorded sessions at the horrible times that people have a live session at times, have a mix of them. Like I said before, the world's your oyster.
I think SG is asking for a link to this. I think that's what you're asking for, SG. So that's just I'll drop it again for everyone in the YouTube chat as well. That is the link to the post dropped by, I believe it's Xylo, where that popped up just before. What time did that drop off, Lemming? Because you're the one who sent it to me as well.
It was a couple of minutes before I sent it to you. So I think it was around 11 o'clock Eastern time.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, just before.
How long ago was that now? So just before 8 o'clock,
9?
was it? 9. Okay.
9.
So about 9 hours ago.
Yeah, so that would have been... Yeah, I would have been asleep by then. So yeah. Okay.
I can look here.
No, it doesn't matter. I'm just curious because it's fairly fresh.
Not just learning. Before 8 o'clock for us, but certainly while we were sending up these. So yeah.
Did we get a ISC this week as well? Because I didn't see anything drop.
I didn't see one.
So I just looked it up, and it dropped at 12:39. So just after noon Eastern time.
Yeah, we didn't get an ISC this week. Last video was 8 days ago. The orbital assault, so they must be on hiatus again.
No, he talked about it because they're only. Yeah, there was a reason why they took this week off. I don't remember what it was, but he talked about it in the last.
Is he going to Disneyland again?
Who knows?
Hopefully, he goes to different Disneylands. Like he goes to, Florida or LA, and then goes over to like Japan or China. Or there's even one in Paris, apparently. I'd like to hope he thinks he goes to different ones around the world. Anyway. Hopefully he does. He gets a badge. I've been to every Disneyland. Right, next question.
Anybody that goes to different Disney worlds or different or lands or whatever, they are not very similar.
I did find out that I don't know about Disney World in Paris, but I did find out there's an Asterix World in Paris.
What, Asterix and Obelix?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
It surprised me. Didn't get to go there, but I was in the airport, and there was this, this big sign saying, "Hey, Asterix and Obelix World, this way." Yeah.
Oh, what is that?
Asterix and Obelix, the comic.
You get the hell out. The door is that way, sir. Go.
Yeah.
Sad.
No, Asterix and Obelix. You don't know who Asterix and Obelix is?
I have no idea.
You know who Tintin is? Oh my god! Oh my god! He doesn't know who Tintin is either. Get worse. Do you know what a comic book is? Let's start real simple. Do you know what a comic book is?
I think Tintin was an old BBS client that you used to connect to BBS servers on.
Yeah. But maybe we should be real cringy and go, where's Florida in the United States? I think they were going to cut it off, weren't they? Oh. No, look, so Tintin and Asterix and Obelix were comics, basically. I don't know the year that they were brought out, but they are very old now, I will give you that. But they were basically, when I was a kid, you could go into the library. Yeah, there was a place that they stored books.
Hey, they
And
still exist.
You could read them all. They were like in my teenage years of I could go into the school library and I could just read them all.
Yeah,
and they were great.
No, I've actually got several of my Asterix. I've got most of the Asterix comics, but I've got 3 of them that I've left at school with the Indonesian versions of that comic next to us there as well. So a student could actually look at both. But yeah,
they even made a movie of it though, right? So I'm just gonna bring this up to show this is just for your benefit, right? So they've done live action ones of this. They've even done like 3D cartoon ones. But that's them.
And done...
You trying to tell me you've never seen these guys? That's probably the most
absolutely never seen
cartoon versions of those as well.
That's probably the most kind of recognizable version of them like this.
Yeah.
And what it is essentially it's a I don't know what the term is, but the Romans were conquering the whole world in their universe, right? And essentially, they are the one goal holdout right on this little peninsula of land. And the Romans are pissed as hell because they can't take them on. And they have this kind of like almost like a Popeye brew thing where they can drink it. And it makes them really, really strong. But Obelix, as a baby, he fell into that. And he is always strong. Where when Asterix needs to do it, he's got to drink it so he can be powerful.
And Obelix is always wanting more, but he's never allowed it because I don't know what it'll do to him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
For chat, is this an Australian thing?
No,
or is this a living under a rock thing?
No. Asterix and Obelix are done by, I think, Danish or Brussels. Brussels.
Actually, that's a really good one. We've got to ask him that too. Do you know who these are?
Yes.
No,
yes,
wait.
Of course I do.
Wait. Do you know who the Smurfs are?
Yeah.
That's the same time period. That's literally the same type of thing. The Smurfs, Asterix and Obelix, and Tintin. You don't know who Tintin is. They made a movie of that. Do you know the guy that made Lord of the Rings? He literally made this movie about Tintin. There's a 3D animated movie of Tintin.
From New Zealand or something?
Yes. So Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson worked on that movie. Like, from Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson. Like, that's how popular that is. He made it from their childhood. Yeah.
Captain Haddock there, who's Tintin's partner, the guy with the beard. Yeah. That's who Dave Haddock also uses as his.
And I call him that all the time. I mock him about being Captain Haddock all the time. But that's where I get it from. Is from Tintin.
He gladly takes Captain Haddock as his avatar on Spectrum and other stuff.
But you can literally go on Amazon and you can buy all the original books as well, and they're really good for kids. Like they are really, really good. Oh man, I don't know if there's anything of that's. Might be some little things that haven't aged too well, but generalistic. These are books from my childhood. They teach you all the morals, all that type of thing. You know, the stuff that they don't do these days.
So is it like Bluey for like back then?
No, Bluey's
Bluey's like little kids, like 5 and 6. I would say this is more like teenagers, like 10 to 15.
I strongly disagree with that. Bluey is just as much for adults as it is for kids.
That's because it's Australian, and Australians make things for adults can watch as well as the kids. Otherwise, the adults go crazy. If you've ever watched a show called Play School in Australia, literally made for toddlers, the funniest shit you'll ever watch. It is hilarious. Yeah, the double entendres, like the sexual innuendo, everything is hilarious. But Australians are just that way. They deliberately do dual things where the kids don't understand, but the parents
definitely got that double entendre going. Same as Play School. It's made for the kids. There's the educational content for the little kids and the double entendres, so the little kids will not understand it, but mum sit there chuckling away because she's having a good time as well.
So there you go. You can get the entire paperback series of Tintin for $215 dues, as an example. But you can also get it in hardcover books, and you can do the same thing for Obelix and Asterix and Smurfs and all that. They're all on Amazon and stuff like that. So yeah.
But these days, probably the popular form of comic that teenagers would read would be Magna. Or Magna.
Yeah, manga and anime.
Yeah.
You mean
manga,
anime? You mean anime? But yeah,
I do mean anime. Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, if you've got kids and you haven't seen Tintin, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
I'd highly recommend that to you, Lemming. Not to your kids. I know you got a daughter, but to you specifically, that would be just a really cool.
I'm going to ask my wife when my wife gets home if she's ever heard of Asterix and Obelix and Tintin.
Obelix.
Yeah.
Obelix like a big, because Obelix's job, he'd make menus as well.
I would argue they're a lot more European, though, than American, where I think Smurfs
which
is American.
What I think it is.
So you'd know about Care Bears, Voltron, those ones, because they're Masters of the Universe, because He-Man, that type of thing. They're all American.
He-Man, She-Ra.
Same time period, but European. And as Australians, we got all that shit. So we got to...
Yeah, we didn't...
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the best of
Never heard of any of this.
Yeah. No, but again, I haven't gone back and read it in a really, really, really long time. What I'd probably start with then is maybe the Tintin movie, and maybe watch that with your daughter or something like that, because that I think would give you a good baseline of whether you like it or not. But it's a comic book. It's that feel, like the graphic novels. You don't really get those anymore. And by the way, the difference between most Tintins and comic books is it's full color. I think some of the early ones were black and white, but they're all full color from memory. Algared, like the one we showed before, like the Asterix and Obelix.
Asterix was always full color.
Yeah.
None of them are black and white.
Yeah. I have seen black and white Asterix and Obelix, but they were like done in newspapers and stuff. So but yeah. Anyway, that is the biggest tangent of all time. But it's cool to talk about stuff like that.
We're almost out of questions. So
yeah.
As Chris said, Smurfs is probably popular in the States because of the link to Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah. Absolutely. Flintstones, all that type of stuff, Pink Panther, all that type of stuff. Yeah. We actually are over time, but we will do the remaining questions. So yeah, go for it.
Cref says, as crafting becomes a focus, do we expect new materials to be added to be gated behind OLP event, allowing the ones currently in play to be placed into the world?
I don't think that'll always be the case. I think they are slowly learning that not everyone's into P versus P. I think unfortunately, right, let's just say, for example, they had made this a mining only event, right? Mining only. Now, the only way you would remove combat from that equation was to put it in an armistice zone. But if Algared's on a rock and he's mining a rock and I come up to it and I start mining it, we can't shoot each other. He can't stop me from mining it, can he? You see what I mean? Can I deliberately overload the rock so he can't mine it? Can I steal from it? You see where I'm going? This promotes combat, even without the combat thing. If I piss Algared off and then I go outside the armistice zone, he would come after me. So even if you can't do combat in that area, what's that? Confrontation leads to more combat.
The only bit in those scenarios you put, the only one that had peeved me off is if you were coming in deliberately blowing up the rock.
Yeah. I think the only way you could do it is like ones where they've done previously where we all had to work together to get to a certain amount. Oh, look. And the stuff that we're collecting is valueless to us.
Yep.
Like the cargo boxes on Xenothreat, the...
Yeah, 100%. That was a great way, and it just promoted everyone working together.
You had the combat people, you had the cargo people. I much prefer the cooperative play. My favorite games are cooperative games. But I didn't have any trouble in the PvSP last night at all. I do also play PvSP, but I think eventually you're going to be able to have different events that you can play. Not every event's going to be for you. Well, it's like Space says, there's got to be things in this game that you hate for it to be for everyone. So unfortunately, we've got 2 PvP events in a row, and as well as I do, PvP is more dynamic, and therefore it's easier to set up than a scripted PvE event, right? So, but I would hope by the end of the year we have an event akin to, and I'm not saying this is what we're getting, but something akin to this. Like there is a rogue asteroid that has come into the system, and what's a planet? I pick Artcorp because it's covered in a city, and shitloads of people are going to die if we do not mine to the center of this asteroid and plant a nuke, like Armageddon, right? And so it is on to, and it's really hard to fly in there or something. Like, you got to avoid all this shit. So your best flyers are going to be brought in to get you in, and maybe it's covered in, I'm just going to say Velicars, but I don't know what you'd put on there, like hostile things on the surface, and they have to be protected while they drill. And you can't just drill one bomb, it's going to be multiple nukes or something like that. And as a community, we have to get X number of nukes planted on the surface by this time to blow up this rock. And even then, as it's done, it could be so dynamic where one of the nukes go off and all of a sudden it splits into 2 asteroids. And all of a sudden one's going towards and one's going to Arkle. Which one do we save, or do we do both? You see where I'm going with this though, right? So it's us against the game, and it's bringing in all these different skills and stuff like that. That's what I want to encourage. I don't, at the moment where it's such in its infancy, you don't want to have those P versus Ps, because what I'm hearing is all these people are going, oh, it's not limited time event. I'll just wait 3 months. I'll go in and do the laser event on my own with no resistance, and then I'll just mine the shit out of Wicklow's stuff and get my Polaris unabated. And that's...
Yep.
It's not good for the P versus Ps because nobody's turning up. And it's not good at the other side because the P versus Ps have been moved on. You do need a little bit of resistance. I know you guys understand game development well enough to go, yeah, well, if it's a walk in a park, it gets boring. Anyway.
But if it's always the same thing, it gets boring. So it's
exactly
that catch-22.
Yep.
Balance,
ironically. Game balance.
It is that balance that you want. Carsten says, minerals. Yeah, I think they'll just bring out more minerals as they need. And hopefully we'll just keep fleshing out the stuff. And hopefully not always behind major events. Carsten says, do you think many fewer med beds will be a big issue when drones come? How long should the healing time be?
We do not have all the pieces of medical to make that call.
Yep. There's not even, I think medical is still in its very early infancy. So.
I think we can safely say more than now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think like someone was asking me about medical, like how would you make medical more complicated? This is one of the combat people last night, and I said, well, have you ever seen the game? I mentioned Operation, right? And they went, if you're real, they'll do that in game. I'm like, yeah, they could also do something more complicated or less complicated. They talked about all the different drug types. Like, so we just don't know how complicated they're going to make stuff. And I think it's the same thing with mining. I think mining is going to get way more complicated than it is now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be as simple as it is. And I think they will eventually have underground mining. We know that's still a thing. And also the Orion, cracking those really big rocks.
I'm sure you will remember this, but CIG talked way back in the day when I was talking medical. And if you went to someone who was, stuffed up the medical, it could actually impair how well you were healed. That's how deep they were talking about medical back in the day. Well, I haven't heard anything that says they're going to change that. So,
well, again, even the cybernetics, when that comes in, like that's going to be somewhere between medical and science, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot, like we talked about crossover between professions as well. So yeah. Go, Leonard.
So right now I'm playing on a roleplay server, and like in the past, whenever like your character got hurt, you had to go in and like roleplay that you were hurt. But they just did a new patch, and in the new patch, if you get hurt, you pretty much catch like diseases and stuff like that, and your blood has to be drawn in order to find out what disease you have, and then a serum has to be created, especially for that disease. They could easily go that direction. Yeah. And then when you go to a new planet or you catch something from the Copians that are now going rabid, or something like that, you may not be able to cure it for a couple of weeks. I mean, like they could go in so many levels.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's the type of thing they talked about in the past. Like you could get injured, And if your skills weren't good enough, you might need to end up getting a cybernetic part. But if you had a really good doctor, he might be able to fix it. And do they still intend to go that deep or go that far? I think they'll go as far as they can, and they'll push all the professions to that depth where you can become a master of that and be in demand. But you may not be brilliant at FPS, but you might be really brilliant as a medical. You might not be a great salvage or a builder, but you might be a brilliant miner. And you already start to see that an element, of that gameplay as people become really good at certain things.
I mean, like, look at John. I would call John a master miner.
Yep.
And somebody like Execute that has mined 3 times in his time in Star Citizen, probably less than master miner.
I think I've done a bit more than that, but yeah. No. John's definitely does a lot more than me, and I'm still learning.
Yep.
Even little things like when we got in the golem, there was little things he remembered from the hand minables that he brought up. There was like a bug, and he was 100% correct. That bug had been transferred to the geo. I said golem, and I keep calling it the golem, but I mean the geo. So yeah. Right, Admiral Kusanagi says, would you be open to us being able to ping a ship and see which ship upgrades we've done by model, nomenclature, ABC, etc., and block design, 25, 40, 72, etc. The USA and other nations have used the same airframe for decades here and there, but they aren't the same plane ships. For instance, say we could see the F-17 models. He's going into lots of numbers here that I'm not going to read. These upgrades indicate they have a different engine and avionic package. I think the more times you scan, the more details you should be able to see.
Yep. And I think like one of the things I've always thought is, as we, scanning will be, you scan at long range and you see the ship type or the class of a ship. And as you get closer, you get a little bit more, and the longer you scan and the closer you are, the more information you're going to get. And that's why I think, the Retaliator is a great smuggling ship, because at long range, it's a tally. It's a torpedo bomber. Yeah, we'll ignore that. We'll go get that whole C on the other side, because that ship could have torpedoes. I could risk getting closer. Hey, it's a tally with only cargo mods. Awesome. But it's that type of thing that I think scanning will actually make all the difference to what we're doing, and it's that depth, the range of being able to see what's on a ship and where the frames are that comes in. But I think Admiral Kostagi was picking up a different thing in terms of, will we be able to see all the different variants? And I think down the track we'll get to that point. Different models, different variants, different
I agree.
components you got loaded as scanning improves. Shrimpasta says, sorry, go on.
Right now, we also don't have any counter scanning.
No.
Which will very much be a thing in the future.
Yeah. If you can jack up your ECCM, that'll be awesome, just like in Starfleet Battles, the old board game. Shrimpasta says, what are your thoughts on Align and Mine? Good, bad, much in PvP, etc.?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, but I can clearly see it's not for everyone. But again, because of the mining aspect, we brought John along, and he was really good at the mining part. I would be encouraging both sides of the aisle, the mining people and the combat people, to get together, because you've got. I clearly saw that both sides had things to teach each other, and I think this is a growing opportunity for both the mining people and the combat people. If you are in an org that is a combat focused, please reach out to a mining org, and vice versa. If you're a mining org and you know some combat people, even maybe some people that you're adversarial with even, and maybe work together for one evening and see if you can make some new friends. Because I had a whale of a time. It was fantastic. I think John's in Twitch chat. You can speak to it, John, as well. Did you have a good time hanging out with Void Dude? Like, he'd never met Void Dude. He found out Void Dude actually had moved to the UK. So, yeah, we'll see. Just he's in his neighborhood, so we'll see. Yeah, maybe wait till John replies. All right. So,
while we go on, this question has to be for Lemming. X with the buyback tokens resetting next week. What CCUs should we be considering grabbing from buyback? So what CCU should we be considering getting from buyback, Lemmy?
Oh, well, it was me that asked it. But so answering my own question is quite silly.
That's right.
But
yeah.
But the community would also benefit from knowing what CCUs you reckon would be worthwhile picking up from buyback.
So based on the monthly report, I would say the TAC is quite soon being released. I don't know if that's Invictus. I don't know if that's
any ships.
I don't know when that is.
Any ships that we know that are coming out, because as soon as they come out, they'll go up in buyback in price. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if anybody else had like any other ideas other than just attack.
Yep.
If we hear about them in advance, like if you see them in a leak or something like that, anything like that, the tips to that coming, be able to recommend. But yeah.
And any we hear about, we will certainly mention. So. All right, Carsten.
Yep.
Has a question. I remember snow, mud, gravel, etc. tires. Do you think that will still be a thing? Yes, because CIG have not mentioned.
In the monthly report, they mentioned working on the weather effects and stuff like that. What do they call it? Dynamic weather, I think they called it, and that obviously implies mud, snow, the whole 9 yards. They talked about the jungles and stuff at CitizenCon. That's going to have mud and water and all that type of stuff.
So do we still think different types of tires and wheels are going to be a thing? Absolutely, because CIG haven't changed what they've said.
That's why there's a lot of hover bikes. They don't need different wheels.
That's right.
Yeah. Last question, and I'm going to bring it up as you read it, Agwood, so please read.
So Rusty Pigeon Gaming says, do you guys think the sneak peek of the VFG asteroid hangar? So
I think this is from Nyx. Personally, it's got a similar color space to Nyx, and it is definitely some form of asteroid base. Could it be VFG? Who knows? There's not enough information there to tell you. I think all we can say is that is a different style of asteroid base we have not seen before.
They did show us, I think last year they showed us some of the stuff they had in Nyx, which was the abandoned asteroid bases, which were places you could go and find copians in or other critters and bugs and clear them out and find resources in it or other stuff. But I think this is Nyx. I think they're hinting that Nyx might be coming soon.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
The tagline, hang on, sorry, Lemming, I know you want to say something. The tagline was, I hope this guy's got asteroid insurance. So it's obviously a damaged asteroid base. Go ahead, Lemming.
Yeah, I was going to say the Stanton Star's yellow, Pyro Star's red.
Yep.
That I don't know if Nyx has a blue star or not. But
it's kind of a bluey green. Well, again, we can look it up if you really want to. I can pull it up.
But that's the big thing that I'm getting from this. Like you can kind of see a little bit of the base, but you can't really see it that much. And we also don't know if the base if this was a solid asteroid and then it got blown apart or what happened here. So
it's either an asteroid base or a bit of lint out of Algared's vacuum cleaner. I haven't quite decided. I think I'm going to go with asteroid base though, but yeah.
Given the caption.
Yeah. And the big Star Citizen logo behind me. But yeah, anyway. Yeah. It does look a bit like pocket lint or something, doesn't it? It's a bit weird. Kind of got that fuzzy texture to it. It's kind of cool in that regard. But I do like where asteroids are going. They've definitely improved in the time we've been around, and just the chaos of the debris now. And they did the same thing in Pyro too. This is starting to feel a lot more like the worlds in Freelancer, Algared. You know, when you'd fly through and I remember there being systems you'd fly into and there was literal debris that would kind of like bounce off your ship as you flew through I hope it does get to that level where like little rocks little chips you can just hear little mini asteroids hitting your ship as you fly through.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember the old asteroid fields. Well, I'm sure you will. But you used to be able to shoot the old asteroid fields and knock the asteroid off onto a different trajectory.
Yep. I don't know if we'll ever get to detail on this because that's a lot to track. But I
have to run, everyone.
Yeah,
but good stream.
Okay. See you, Lemming.
Take care, Lemming.
But you know how they have like the little floaty bits around Pyro, stuff like that you can kind of just bump and it kind of floats off, and then very slowly in the game terms, right? Because you wouldn't be able to see this, but maybe over 5 minutes, it very slowly comes back to its origin point. So it's not actually and again, that can just be personal for your local client. It does not have to be for every single person to see, because again, that doesn't affect gameplay. Where a rock that's solid that you can crash into, that does affect gameplay. So it's got to be seen by the server as well as the client. Very cool.
Yeah, I think that looks like Pyro. I think looks like the stuff we've seen in the past.
Yeah,
I think it's hinting at asteroid bases that have been destroyed. That hinted at those things in the past as venues you would go to. We know that I said Pyro, I meant Nyx. But we know that Nyx has not only Levski, but it's also got a myriad of small mum and papa settlements, as well as abandoned places.
So G Cube says, check out the Glacium ring in Nyx. It looks a lot. Yeah, that does look like a glacial, like that light blue color. Yeah, good find there, Cubid. G Cubid. Right. So we are going to be raiding. I just picked someone at random. This is a person I have no idea who they are. They were the next highest up above us in views on Twitch, and that is this young lady by the name of Lizzie B. So we're going to be raiding her, and we're going to say goodbye to Twitch here. So Twitch should go.
Twitch should ask Lizzie B what her favourite ship is and why. There you go.
Yep. So Lizzie B, enjoy the raid. As Algared said, ask what her favourite ship is, and you guys have a good week on Twitch. So Twitch should say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube say goodbye to Twitch. I just realised I didn't prepare the raid because I'm slack. I need another 5 seconds. 6, 5.
So that's okay. We can fill the void for 5 seconds. Doesn't take long to fill the void when you just talk minions.
All right. See you, Twitch. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed the program. Right. Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye.
And right, we'll stop in and have a listen now. And see what she says. Not saying anything.
At least here you'll be treated with dignity. Now strip naked and get on the probulator.
Time to get on the probulator. Thank you so much for the raid, Inforunners. I appreciate
that.
That's like a European accent.
Yeah. Stream was good.
Stream was good. I'll just reply.
We're just we're gonna blow this. Up. As soon as I can find someone to give me a ride out. Welcome in.
All right. She's doing some combat stuff, so I think we'll leave it there for now. Right. With that, then, we will have an episode out recorded this week, as we talked about earlier. Thanks for joining us. Is there anything you want to add, Algared, before we kind of sign off?
Nope. That's about it.
All right, then. Don't forget to. Oh, my button's not working. All right, I'll have to do it manually.
Like, subscribe, and hit that bell because we love you all so much, and it gives us a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Thank you to everyone that went the extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. Right, with that, then, he's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.